Marvel, it starts when it links with the Great Clock of the Super God Academy. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 376 True God Level Civilization. Killing the Celestials without destroying the planet itself is an attack specifically targeting the Celestials. This kind of attack can be determined at a glance as a deliberate targeting by Li Qingyun. It may also make the Celestials realize that the planets with Celestial seeds that were destroyed by Li Qingyun in the past were destroyed by Li Qingyun. New hatreds and old grudges are superimposed on each other, and a battle between the Super God civilization and the Celestials may break out directly. I know what you are worried about, but this matter is related to the safety of billions of people on the entire planet. We have no choice, Li Qingyun said so. Stark, who heard his words, fell into silence at this time. Indeed, this is already a helpless thing. If the Celestials are not eliminated, the Earth will be destroyed when the Celestials are born. In order to protect the nearly 7 billion people on the Earth, this must be done. I understand. I will go down and arrange it, and let the Super God Academy prepare a plan to directly kill the Celestials. After Stark finished speaking, he turned around and left. Haha, I don't need to take the lead anymore. They can come up with a plan to kill the Celestials themselves. Li Qingyun smiled. He thought that after Stark asked for his opinion, he would let him find a way to deal with the Celestials, but Stark dealt with it directly. This shows that in the Super Seminary, even without relying on Li Qingyun's strength, it is already possible to kill the Celestials. The combination of reality gems, chaos magic and void controllers has been studied for a long time in the Super Seminary. Although they can't achieve the level you have now, they can easily change the structure of matter and energy. Based on this, the Celestials on the Earth can be reorganized and killed without changing the status quo of the Earth. The big clock answered, and Li Qingyun nodded silently after hearing its answer. Indeed, this was originally the method used by the Eternals in the movie to prevent the birth of the Celestials. Now Stark can easily kill the Celestials with this trick. When he left the Marvel Universe, Li Qingyun had already left 3 key research projects in the Super Seminary. It is understandable that they have made the breakthrough now. However, this plan will eventually have to rely on the power of Li Qingyun or Wanda, because chaos magic is now in the hands of only the 2 of them. As for the power of the Reality Stone, among the 6 Infinity Stones, the other 5 are on Li Qingyun's hands except the Time Stone. In fact, Guyu has already planned to give the last Time Stone to Li Qingyun, but he has not had the opportunity yet. Li Qingyun has already mastered the ability to control time, and he can do it without the help of the Time Stone, so he does not need to get the Time Stone from Guyu. Is the Super Seminary still using the auxiliary computing system of the Great Clock to operate now? Li Qingyun asked. Yes, since the moment the Super Seminary in this universe was established, it has always been using the auxiliary computing system of the Great Clock as computing support, the Great Clock replied. Well, prepare and let them rebuild a new celestial computer. You are my exclusive celestial computer. Although I can share the use rights with them, the development of a civilization cannot have only one celestial computer, Li Qingyun ordered. The manufacture of celestial computers is not a difficult task for him now. In addition, there are many superheroes such as Death God Carl, Morgana, Xion Binglian and Angel in the Super God Academy, so it is even easier to make it. Moreover, having 2 celestial computers at the same time can also speed up the development of their Super God civilization. When Li Qingyun's order is conveyed, someone in the Super God Academy will immediately go to execute it. After the civilization has developed to such a level, Li Qingyun often only needs to say a word when doing many things. There is no need to do everything by himself. He usually plays with his children when he has nothing to do, or discusses the philosophy of life with his beloved people. Finally, he continues to explore the entire universe and the starry sky. The multiverse, quantum field, special dimension, etc. are all worthy of Li Qingyun's research. In the process of research, Li Qingyun also has several capable helpers. The angel civilization is best at researching the sky-based King Hexi, the demon King Morgana of the Demon Legion, and the Death God Carl who has the most advanced ideas in the Super God universe. The application of the cosmic membrane has gone a step further. Li Qingyun has begun to formally open up a dark matter plane space in the universe that is completely independent of the universe and belongs only to Li Qingyun. Although this application has led to the consumption of the cosmic membrane of the small universe, the scale of the small universe has shrunk a little. But for a small universe that exceeds the size of the Milky Way, reducing the scale of a solar system does not seem to be a big deal at all, and does not affect the operation of all the laws in the small universe. The secret home that Li Qingyun opened up in the small universe, such as the home where he lives, and the home of the Zerg bred by the ant civilization, can continue to exist well. Now Li Qingyun's strength can be said to be increasing day by day. Lord Shen, our battle plan has been arranged properly. We will start to take direct action against the Celestial Group in 3 days. Iron Man sent the latest report on dealing with the Celestial Group. Just execute it as scheduled, Li Qingyun replied. In addition, someone in the Eternal Clan chose to fight against us. We have already captured him. Should we keep him or imprison him? Iron Man asked. According to the rules and regulations of the Super God civilization, we are now a civilization, and there are laws and rules in the civilization. Everyone needs to follow these rules. Li Qingyun is now the main god of the civilization, and he does not do things based on personal likes and dislikes. Understood, Iron Man replied, and then he directly began to execute according to the laws of the Super God civilization. Icarus, who forcibly opposed their Super God Academy plan, was executed, and the water butterfly who assisted him was exiled. Later, because of the plea of other Eternals who did not participate and chose to support their action plan, they were deprived of their superpowers and eternal life. After receiving the subsequent handling report, Li Qingyun did not care too much. The entire plan to eliminate the Celestial Group was officially implemented 3 days later. As the Super God Academy drove the transformation device, the Celestial Group that was being nurtured on the Earth was directly reorganized, completely changing its life form, and strangled in the cradle. Chapter 377 Hanging a sword over the heads of the Celestial Gods. The unborn Celestials on Earth were directly wiped out under the arrangement of the Super God Academy. However, this move to attack the Celestials directly was naturally known to other Celestials in the universe at the first time. Just as the Big Clock and Iron Man worried before, Li Qingyun had destroyed many life planets with Celestials in the past, which was also noticed by the Celestials. At the first time, a special message came from the depths of the universe and reached every life planet in the Super God civilization. A mere human killed the Celestials. You must be judged. The content of the message is very simple, but the information it contains is very important. This is a warning from the Celestials to their Super God civilization. I'm afraid they should be attacked directly in the future. Lord Shen, what should we do? In the hall, many superheroes have gathered at this time. Although their strength has improved a lot in the past 2 years, in the end, this time they are provoking the Celestials. Any one of them is a planet-sized god, and even the Eternals created by them are not weak. In this case, they had to take it seriously, because once the two sides really went to war, I'm afraid that the entire Super God civilization combined would not be able to withstand the attack of the Celestial Group. We are just protecting our homeland. If they still want to go to war with us just for this, then we will fight them. Li Qingyun's attitude was very clear. If others don't offend me, I won't offend others. If others offend me, I will kill them. No matter if he is the Celestial Group or not, since he has threatened the lives of billions of people on their territory, then killing him is inevitable. If the other party insists on going to war, even if they really go to war, they have nothing to fear. The other party is the Celestial Group. Their strength is very terrifying. Even if we have the ability to fight them, if they disperse and attack our other planets, we can't defend all the planets at the same time. Thanos stood out from the crowd. This villain who once wanted to destroy half of the life in the universe has now become a lord in their Super God civilization. The Qingyun star he is responsible for and the 5 nearby life planets are all under his jurisdiction. Then what do you suggest? Li Qingyun knew that since Thanos stood up to express his opinion, he should have an idea. You can borrow the Time Stone from the Supreme Sorcerer, so that you will have 6 Infinity Stones in your hands. Then, you can directly use the Infinity Stones to expel all the Celestials from our universe at once. Thanos said what he was thinking. The Celestials may not be expelled by the Infinity Stones, Li Qingyun said. Although the Infinity Stones have the ability to destroy the universe, there are few Celestials who have the power to surpass a single universe. Once the power can surpass a single universe, the Infinity Stones will no longer have any effect on them. Just like the Infinity Stones will be greatly reduced when they leave this universe, the 6 Infinity Stones are omnipotent in this universe, but they cannot really destroy those who surpass this universe itself. In Li Qingyun's heart, the one he is most worried about is actually the one called OAA. According to the setting in the comics, OAA is also one of the Celestials, and the strongest among the Celestials. And the strongest existence in the setting of the entire Marvel world. Even if it is just the life cord under its command that is responsible for managing the omnipotent universe, its power is no longer an existence that can be destroyed by the various energies that Li Qingyun is currently involved in. The Marvel Universe, especially when it comes to the multiverse chapter, is too complicated. It is not appropriate to kill or expel all the Celestials directly, so this method cannot be used, Li Qingyun said. He would not offend all the Celestials unless he had no choice. Of course, he was not afraid of those who had already appeared and were already known to Li Qingyun in the movie universe. Even the Judge Aradhem, who appeared in the movie and was several times larger than the Earth. If we can't take the initiative, we will always be in a passive state in this battle with the Celestials, which will be very disadvantageous for us, Thanos reminded. He had an extremely strong hostility towards the Celestials. He was originally a descendant of the Eternals created by the Celestials. Although his strength has now surpassed that of the ordinary Eternals and has more powerful power, the Celestials have always been the existence that he fears and hates. We really can't passively bear the revenge of the Celestials, Li Qingyun agreed with what Thanos said at this moment. In a war, the passive party will inevitably become more and more passive, because the party that has gained an advantage will always take advantage of it. Give the Celestials a message, or more precisely, give them a warning. Li Qingyun turned his head and looked at Stark below. Tell the Celestials that if they want revenge, they should come to us openly. If they dare to attack our life planets and our people scattered outside, then if they hurt one of us, we will destroy one Celestial in their universe. I believe they will not be happy about this. The two sides will hurt each other endlessly, Li Qingyun said. He was going to put a reward of a sharp sword on the heads of the Celestials, a sword that could harvest their heads at any time. If they fought openly, Li Qingyun would accept it regardless of winning or losing. But if they fought secretly, he would not mind finding all the planets in the universe where the seeds of the Celestials existed, and then destroying them one by one. Even if the Celestials were already hatched and already existed in the universe, Li Qingyun had the ability to kill them directly. Don't forget that Li Qingyun is now a strong man who has surpassed the single universe level. The ordinary gods are simply not his opponents. When he really has to, he put all the important people around him into the small universe of the Soul Gem, and then go to harvest those gods alone. Even if OAA takes action personally at that time, he can only go directly to other worlds through the dimensional universe. He doesn't believe that OAA can catch up. After all, if you don't have the power of two different dimensions at the same time, no matter how strong you are, it is impossible to cross the dimensional universe, even if OAA is stronger than you. Do you really want to do this? Stark looked at Li Qingyun hesitantly. Yes, just do as I said, and pass this information through the dark communication. Li Qingyun didn't hesitate at all. Got it. Although Stark was still a little worried, he still arranged it according to what Li Qingyun said. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 378 News that shocked the universe. Soon, a message spread directly to the entire universe by the super god civilization through dark communication, and then spread throughout the universe. The Nova Empire, the Sheer Empire and other cosmic empires that still exist in the universe were all shocked. Their entire civilization, the top leaders of their civilization, were all looking at the distant Milky Way with an extremely shocked expression at this moment. The super god civilization, which was established only a few years ago, dared to directly issue such a warning to the most powerful group of gods in the legendary universe. How could this not shock people? This is the group of gods who can easily destroy a planet by one person. Is the super god civilization crazy? How dare they issue such a warning to the group of gods in the Sheer Empire? Queen Lilandra was looking at the ministers below and asked the biggest question in her heart. According to our investigation, this super god civilization has a very terrifying and powerful force. Our former opponent, the Kree Empire, was destroyed in their hands. Now the large Magellanic Cloud has been ruled by them. Sidiek, the Minister of Information and Intelligence of the Sheer Empire, replied. According to the information we have previously obtained, The other party seems to have the means to directly trigger a supernova, which is the same as the most powerful technological weapon we have, Dao Jian reminded him. He is the military commander of the Sheer Empire, and also the strongest person in the Sheer Empire and a loyal supporter of the Queen. It was because we knew this that we did not take any action against this emerging cosmic empire, Queen Lilandra nodded and said. After learning that the super god civilization was established and the Kree Empire was destroyed, someone in the Sheer Empire had proposed to take action against the super god civilization. But later, according to their investigation, they learned that the former capital of the Kree Empire was actually destroyed by the super god civilization through the means of a supernova, and their internal idea of taking action against the super god civilization was completely put away. Being able to destroy a star and perform it so easily is much more powerful than their Sheer Empire. After all, their Sheer Empire uses supernovas as the ultimate means of attack, but the super god civilization uses supernovas as an attack that can be used at will. A comparison between the two shows that the super god civilization has the upper hand. Even if they have such a powerful attack method as supernova, it is not wise to confront the Celestials directly, right? Sidiak expressed his doubts. The news I heard is that it was the Celestials who scattered the seeds on the Earth where they live. They killed the Celestials hidden in the planet in order to protect the lives of the 7 billion people on Earth, and then angered the Celestials. In this case, it may not be surprising that the Earth has its actions, Dao Jian expressed his opinion. From his perspective as a military strategist, when facing a war, one should not show a cowardly side. Only by being strong can one gain more initiative. Anyway, their actions are still too shocking. In our universe, in our civilization, since there have been records, no one has ever dared to confront the Celestials in this way. Even the gods in the past have never done such a thing, Sidiak said. And the gods he mentioned were the gods in the city of Almighty, like the Airseer. However, they did not know that the Proteus in the former Almighty City had been severely punished by Li Qingyun, and the current Almighty City kept a distance from Li Qingyun and his super god civilization. We cannot make a correct evaluation of other people's affairs without knowing the whole picture, Dao Jian said. In this case, I would like to trouble Commander Dao Jian to observe it in person to see how the super god civilization and the celestial god group will develop in the end, so that we can make more accurate judgments for some subsequent matters. Queen Lilandra looked at Dao Jian and said, she hoped that Dao Jian could come forward to understand the subsequent development between the super god civilization and the celestial god group. Yes, I will go to the outer galaxy to observe the specific situation, Dao Jian answered, and then he flew directly out of the Sheer Empire and flew towards the Milky Way. Although he could not directly enter the super god civilization, he could still observe some life planets that were relatively close. At the same time, in the universe, the celestial god group had also received the information sent by the super god civilization. These mortals are too arrogant. Exeter, the eradicator of the Celestials, was roaring angrily at this moment. He was originally carrying out the task of clearing life on a certain planet in the universe, but now he suddenly received this message from the super god civilization, and he immediately became furious. They are the Celestials, the most powerful group in the universe. Now someone dares to openly provoke them. As the eradicator responsible for killing among the Celestials, how can he tolerate it? Exeter, this matter cannot be directly concluded. Suddenly, a heavy voice penetrated the infinite universe and reached the mind of the eradicator. Judge, the eradicator looked at the starry sky of the universe, and he recognized that the owner of the voice was the Judge Alyssum in the group. The Celestials in the universe act in groups, so they are usually called the Celestials instead of the Celestials. Only those who are weak or deprived of their identity are called Celestials, such as Ego. The other party killed the members of the Celestials because our new members threatened the safety of the native life on the planet. This is a form of self-defense, so we cannot simply judge it as a mistake, the judge said. But now they have issued such a strong warning to us. This is a contempt for our Celestials, the eradicator replied. This is because you warned them before, the judge said, and the eradicator, who heard his words, fell into a brief silence. Indeed, he was very angry when he learned that a Celestial was killed by an Earthling. He also learned that other unborn Celestials were killed by the Lord of the Super God civilization a few years ago. So he did not inform other members and directly issued a warning message. In any case, the majesty of the Celestials cannot be challenged. The Eradicator also has his own attitude. This is the character that he should have as one of the most powerful beings in the Celestials and as an Eradicator. The Celestials follow the laws of the universe, and this matter needs to be judged by me, Judge Alyssum said in a firm tone. Chapter 379, The Frustrated Judge Alyssum. Judge Alyssum, he is one of the judges in the Celestials. Whether a life group can be recognized and whether it can continue to survive in the universe depends on him. Moreover, he can decide whether a race will survive or perish with just one formula. Exterminator, what he does is to completely destroy a planet after the judge has ruled on the extinction of the planet. Don't forget, although you are judge, there is also a prosecutor in our team, the exterminator reminded. Although he always obeys the orders of the judge, in a divine organization like the Celestials that maintains the operation of the universe, how can one person decide everything? Therefore, in their team, in addition to the judge, there is also a prosecutor, and the role of the prosecutor is to make a second judgment when the Celestials believe that the judge's judgment is wrong. At the same time, he determines whether the judge can continue to perform his duties. I know my duty, Judge Alyssum answered, and then his figure completely disappeared. He had accomplished his goal and had temporarily stopped the Eradicator from attacking the Earth and the super god civilization. He would judge the following events according to normal means and procedures. The negotiation between the judge and the Eradicator was over, but the incident had just begun. The Celestials were completely shocked by the message from the super god civilization. They were either angry about the message, or curious about the situation in the super god civilization, or they continued to do their own thing. After all, the Celestials had existed in the universe for more than 10 million years, and they were standing at the top of the entire universe. They were high above the so-called human beings and other life forms, just like humans facing ants. They would not be emotionally affected by a little thing. However, the Celestials with corresponding responsibilities soon arrived at the area where the super god civilization was located. The extremely huge Judge Arytham crossed the universe directly and came to the outside of the solar system, where the core of the super god civilization was located. Lord Shin, the Celestials are here, Captain Marvel, who is responsible for observing the situation in the universe outside the solar system, soon sent a message. Got it, I'll send someone to support you right away, Li Qingyun answered, and at the same time, he turned back to look at Liu Chuang. Just go over there, you should know how to deal with this kind of thing. Li Qingyun looked at Liu Chuang, the super soldier who came with him from the super god universe. He was the only super soldier created by the three major god-making projects who followed him. Don't worry, I have experience in dealing with this kind of thing, Liu Chuang answered, then turned around and left the palace. They were all super soldiers who had fought in the Nebula-level war, and after defeating the last resistance of the Dark Nebula with Li Qingyun, they had experienced more than 10 years of precipitation and further development. Now Liu Chuang has the power of a true no-star god of war. Not to mention splitting a planet, even a star larger than a planet can be split with one axe. Through a portal outside the castle, Liu Chuang came directly to the defense system at the edge of the solar system, looking at the huge, six-eyed group of gods that appeared in front of him. Even though Liu Chuang had experienced the war between nebula-level civilizations in the super god universe, he was still shocked when he saw the celestial god group. In fact, the body of the celestial god group was too huge. It was almost as big as the sun. You are that thing, the celestial god group, Liu Chuang recovered quickly. Although this was a huge monster, his specialty was to cut down planets, so although the celestial god group was huge, it did not scare him. Who are you? The Lord of Shen. The judge lowered his head and looked at Liu Chuang, who appeared in front of him at this time, and asked, No, I am not a Lord of Shen. At best, I am just a general under his command, Liu Chuang answered like this, and in fact, he regarded himself as a general who played as a vanguard for Li Qingyun. And under Li Qingyun's command, there were at least 3 or 4 generals of his level. What about Xianji Wang Hexi, Shinran Wang Yan, Demon King Morgana, Death God Karlin, his subordinate Kesa? In addition, there are also several very powerful superheroes here. The current Li Qingyun and the super god civilization he founded are no longer a simple force, but a more powerful god-level civilization that surpasses any main god civilization in the super god universe. Since you are not a Lord of Shen, then get out of the way. I am here to talk to your leader. Judge Alyssum was also a little unhappy at this moment. When he just arrived, he was blocked by the defense system standing on the periphery of the solar system. After that, the other party said to notify the superiors, and the judge thought that it would be the Lord of Shen who came to greet him. In the end, It turned out that it was just a general under the Lord of Shin. Isn't this looking down on Judge Alisum? You know, he is already the strongest existence in the Celestial God group. Except for the leader of the Celestial God group who has never appeared above their heads, no one in the Celestial God group dares to guarantee that they have the strength to defeat him. But now, he, a dignified judge, was actually looked down upon by a civilization formed by humans. Can anyone see our leader? Li Qingyun also had a tough attitude. Even if this group of gods looked unusual, since Li Qingyun had asked him to come, he had the obligation to guard the door. I am Judge Alisum, one of the gods. How dare you stop me? Judge Alisum began to get angry. His body trembled slightly, and then a huge breath emanated from him. In this huge body, even a slight movement of his would be as shocking as a magnitude 10 earthquake to outsiders. So at this moment, even if he just trembled a little in anger, the breath he produced was very intimidating. However, the person standing in front of him at this moment was someone who was not afraid of his intimidation. Come on, there's no need to show off your identity. Anyway, we don't know who is powerful and who is not among you gods. But if you don't tell us your purpose and what you want to do with our Lord of the Divine River, you can't go in, Li Qingyun said with a firm attitude. Chapter 380, Direct Intervention of the Cosmic Observer. Li Qingyun's words made the Judge Alisum snort again. His huge body bent down slightly, and an extremely huge hand grabbed the platform in front of Li Qingyun, and the building passage, which was originally 100 meters wide, was directly crushed into powder like a piece of cotton thread. You dare to be so rude to the Celestial God group? Are you really not afraid of bearing the wrath of our Celestial God group? I warn you, your behavior can be regarded as an attack on our Shen civilization. Li Qingyun looked at the defense line that had been completely destroyed at this moment, and his expression became serious. This is a defense line that the Super God civilization spent several years to build. Although it is not as good as the solar system defense system outside the Earth in the Super God universe, it is also a very important defense line that can protect the Earth to a certain extent. But now, such an important defense system has been easily destroyed by the hands of the Celestial God group. How much manpower and material resources will it take to repair it again? Launch an attack? If I really wanted to launch an attack on you, I would not be the judge here today, but the Eradicator, Aratham said. As a judge, his duty is to judge, not to be the Eradicator who directly executes the order to destroy. If he intends to destroy the Earth and all life on it, he only needs to convey an order to the Eradicator. Or, he can do it himself, but that only requires a formula. It seems that the formula no longer works for the people of this Super God civilization. The judge looked at Li Qingyun, and suddenly he saw a very powerful power in Li Qingyun, the kind that has surpassed ordinary humans, and even surpassed the power of the Eternals he created. No, his power may be even stronger than those so-called gods. The more Judge Aratham looked at him, the more he felt that Li Qingyun was special, so special that even a group of gods like him had to pay attention to him. Boy, how many strong people like you are there in your civilization? Aratham's tone suddenly changed. He was no longer as high-handed as before, but had a hint of equality. 4 or 5, Li Qingyun answered casually. This is just what he thought, but in fact, there are no more than 3 people who can surpass him. As far as we know, Li Qingyun and the God of Death Karl can definitely beat him, but the others, even Hizai, Morgana and Angel Yen, can only fight Li Qingyun 50-50 at most. If they really fight, they may not be able to beat Li Qingyun. The No-Star War God, one of the 3 major god-making projects, is no joke. And this is a grown-up No-Star War God, which is different from the No-Star War God who participated in the Nebula-level war not long after being created during the Dino War and eventually fell. Is your Super God civilization really so powerful? Alisum looked at Li Qingyun in shock. Originally, after seeing Li Qingyun's strength, he suddenly realized that perhaps their so-called Lord of the Divine River, Li Qingyun, would be stronger than Li Qingyun, so if he came alone, he might not be able to threaten them. Perhaps it is necessary to let the Eradicator or 1 or 2 other groups of gods come together. But now, judging from the situation, if there is a war between the 2 sides, the Celestial God group will probably need to send out a whole team to ensure that the Super God civilization is taken down. The opponent's strength has already grown quietly when they have not noticed it. Sir Alisum, suddenly, a low voice came, and then a figure wearing a blue cloak and a big bald hat appeared beside Li Qingyun and Judge Alisum. Observer, Judge Alisum saw the figure and immediately knew the other party's identity. What are you doing here? Judge Alisum looked at the observer vigilantly. This observer is a very special existence in the universe. Although they are born from humans, they have evolved to the point where they can be on par with their celestial god group many years ago. One observer may be able to compete with a celestial god group, and the number of observers is no less than their celestial god group. I have been observing the development of the super god civilization, the observer answered, and this observer was the observer Sakura, who had had many contacts with Li Qingyun before. Have you been observing the development of the super god civilization? Judge Alisum looked at the observer. Although he didn't show any expression on his face, his movements when looking at the observer at this moment made people feel that he was suspicious. Could it be that you are the one who promoted the development of this civilization? In the eyes of the celestial gods, the only special group that can compete with them is the cosmic observers. Therefore, if it is Sakura who is helping the super god civilization, it is not surprising that the super god civilization can develop to its current level. Cosmic observers will not interfere with the progress of civilization, Sakura answered. After hearing his words, Judge Alisum retracted his gaze and stood up again, keeping a certain distance from Li Qingyun and Sakura. The celestial gods knew that the cosmic observers would not interfere with the normal operation of the universe, so the celestial gods had never taken action against these cosmic observers. It can be said that the two sides have always kept their distance and lived in peace with each other. So, what's the meaning of your appearance here at this moment? Judge Alisum looked at Sakura. This super god civilization has already offended the celestial god group. Next, it is up to them to judge whether this civilization is worth preserving. At this time, the cosmic observer suddenly appeared and blocked his way. This was obviously intentional. I came here just to tell Sir Alisum what I have seen and heard over the years. After Sakura finished speaking, he stretched out his right hand and pointed in the void. A light spot appeared where his finger pointed. Judge Alisum looked at the light spot that appeared, and then stretched out a finger and gently tapped it. His huge body, although only a finger, was as big as the observer's entire body. The moment this huge finger touched the light spot, all the information contained in the light spot immediately poured into the mind of Judge Alisum. The development process of the super god civilization over the years recorded by Sakura, as well as everything done by the Lord of the Divine River, the leader of the super god civilization, in this process, which can only be observed by cosmic observers, all appeared clearly in Alisum's mind. Chapter 381 The Strongest Spectator? You're in the game this time. As this information was integrated, Judge Alisum soon saw a complete process of civilization development and a vivid Lord of the Divine River. If everything is as recorded in your information, this civilization is not at fault, but at this moment, what they are doing is repeatedly challenging the authority of our celestial god group. Judge Alisum looked at the cosmic observer again. This was after he had read the relevant information and was sure that he had understood the situation, and wanted to further understand its roots. They became gods through technology, so in their cognition, they don't have the same respect for you celestial god group as other humans, which is understandable, Sakura explained. You said it is understandable, but there are many people in the celestial god group who can't understand it, Judge Alisum continued. So, are you going to make a final judgment on the super god civilization because of this issue of authority? Sakura asked. In my opinion, you celestials are just following the natural laws of the universe. Your duty is to maintain the normal operation of the universe. But now, just because there is a civilization that does not understand your authority, you want to destroy it. Does this go against your purpose? Sakura's words made Judge Alisum fall into brief contemplation. As a judge, his judgment is of great significance to the celestials and civilization. But at the moment, he really can't make a truly accurate judgment. I can't judge this matter anymore. I can only convey all this to the prosecutor, and make the most accurate judgment based on the final statistical data of the measurers, analysts, calculators and testers. Judge Alisum said so, and then he turned around and flew towards the depths of the universe. His goal has been achieved. Even though he has not really arrived on Earth and has never seen the Lord of the Divine River, he has seen the Earth's attitude towards them and the general situation of the super god civilization in Li Qingyun and observer Sakura. The Judge Alisum, one of the gods, left the solar system and went to contact other members of the gods with his judgment of the super god civilization. At the same time, Li Qingyun returned to the floating castle on Earth with the cosmic observer Sakura to meet the Lord of the Divine River in the hall. In the Super God Academy, hearing that there was a cosmic observer, a large number of superheroes and super soldiers gathered unconsciously and all came to the hall. Angel Yen, Kilin, Hila, and Wanda were waiting in the hall early, and even the king of the sky base, Hexy, who had not participated in the various affairs of the super god civilization, came. The reason is also very simple. Li Qingyun suddenly fell into such a state of contemplation that day because of the contact with his cosmic observer. It can be said that the window paper between Li Qingyun and Hexy was broken because of this cosmic observer. Therefore, Hexy also wanted to see what kind of existence this cosmic observer was. When the cosmic observer appeared, when he followed Liu Qingyun into the hall, everyone subconsciously widened their eyes when they saw him. This cosmic observer is really big, at least 10 meters tall. He is bald and wears a blue cape, which covers his body below the neck. His eyes glow white, just like the angels when they use the eyes of insight to observe information. His eyes. Hizai noticed the eyes of the cosmic observer at first sight. She was wondering if the cosmic observer has the same eyes of insight as the super soldiers, that is, the ability to see through the appearance of things. Our eyes have been upgraded through technology, which allows us to see more information in the universe and a wider universe. Socorro turned his head to look at Hizai, because he sensed what Hizai had just whispered. Is it through dark communication to read the information in the universe? Hizai asked. Dark energy is a kind of energy that is ubiquitous in the universe. Using it as a means of communication and information storage can indeed be more effective to observe more information in the universe, Socorro answered truthfully. His open appearance in front of the celestial god group and the super god civilization today meant that his past state of concealment no longer existed. In this case, he no longer needed to deliberately hide anything. The most important thing was that what he was talking about at this moment was also the ability possessed by the strong men in the super god civilization. Since they were all the same, speaking out would not change the development process of this civilization itself. Old Li said that you are a cosmic observer, Sun Wukong asked. Since he followed Li Qingyun here, he has been doing nothing. He wanted to understand the truth and power of this universe, but found that those superheroes were nothing great. Only the celestial god group mentioned by Iron Man and the cosmic observer who suddenly appeared in front of him could attract Sun Wukong's attention. Yes, we are multiverse observers, Sakura answered. Multiverse observer, I heard the word multiverse and was more certain that Li Qingyun had talked to this person at the beginning. Does it mean that you have the ability to observe the entire multiverse? Hizai asked. My tribe has existed since the birth of the universe. Like the Celestials, we are an extremely important part of the entire multiverse system. However, compared to the Celestials who have been directly managing the affairs of the universe for a long time, we, the cosmic observers, choose to simply observe and record, and never intervene. Socorro still answered truthfully. Never intervene? Then what are you doing now? Death God Karl is the kind of guy who doesn't know how to show mercy to others. When he heard what Socorro said, he told the truth without hesitation. The cosmic observer, at least the cosmic observer in front of him, has long been involved in the development of cosmic civilization. From his initial contact with Li Qingyun to his open appearance in the floating castle of the Super God Academy today, the existence of the cosmic observer has been witnessed by everyone, and their appearance will inevitably have a huge impact on the development of the entire universe. I did make a mistake on this issue. Socorro did not deny the problem pointed out by the god of death Karl. He had indeed been involved in the development of the super god civilization without realizing it. Chapter 382, When the enemy comes, we will stop him. When the water comes, we will block it with earth. Whether you intervene or not, since the incident has already happened, it is meaningless to pursue the past. Li Qingyun finally spoke. As the main god of the super god civilization and the president of the super god academy, no matter what others around him do or say, he will ultimately decide what to do next. Since you chose to come in this way today, you must have something very important to tell me. Just tell me your thoughts and opinions directly. Li Qingyun looked at the cosmic observer in front of him. This Socorro and Li Qingyun are old acquaintances. Not long after he became a super soldier, he secretly appeared to observe him. Thanks to the Great Clock's calculation ability, he discovered his existence early. Some of the things Li Qingyun did afterwards directly led to the cosmic observer to communicate with him, and even reminded him not to offend the celestial god group too much. Although the arrival of the Judge Allison this time retreated because of my appearance, he did not directly make a judgment, which shows that he did not fully accept my evaluation of you, Socorro said. According to my records, there are several very powerful people in the Celestials. Exterminator is one of them. He was the one who sent you the warning message. In addition, Prosecutor Onag also attaches great importance to the authority of the Celestials. One of my former colleagues was defeated by Exterminator with the prosecutor's permission when he wanted to stop Exterminator from destroying a civilization. Socorro's words made everyone present quickly grasp some very important information. That is, these cosmic observers actually have the strength to compete with the Celestials. Although the cosmic observer lost in the end, if they did not have a certain strength, how could they compete with the Exterminator one-on-one? Then there are some strong factions in the organizational structure of the Celestials. They will really take ruthless actions against those who hinder the Celestials from carrying out their mission. They are also cosmic observers standing at the level of the multiverse, but they kill them without caring whether a full-scale war will break out between them and the cosmic observers. Your people were killed by the Celestials. Why didn't you do anything to them? Morgana was also a strong person. She was so strong that she would fight to the death with fellow Celestials, even though she knew she was not as good as them. Now, some people in the Cosmic Observer team had been killed by the Celestials, but they, the Cosmic Observers, still coexisted peacefully with the Celestials in the universe. In Morgana's opinion, this was a very cowardly performance. The purpose of our Cosmic Observers is to observe and record silently. The one directly came forward to stop the actions of the Celestials, which itself violated our purpose. So no matter what the consequences are, he should bear them, Socorro answered. Does that mean that if something happens to you here, your other people will also watch you die without helping you? Morgana asked again. Judging from my current performance, if I am really in danger, they will indeed not take any action, Socorro answered like this. This sentence should have been a little helpless and frustrated, but it sounded so calm when he said it at this moment. It was as if while this was supposed to be like this, his life and death, his people's attitude towards him, were all taken for granted. How can cosmic observers with a lifespan of billions of years care about their own life and death? Li Qingyun could understand what Socorro was really thinking at this moment. For these cosmic observers, they were already desireless beings, and they always existed only because they wanted to observe and record, but if they died, it was not a problem for them. It was just a form of life change. Perhaps it is precisely because you have no desires and no demands that although you cosmic observers have survived for billions of years, your technology has not improved at all. Death Carl did not understand this truth in the past, because he felt that only by giving up desires could he better study the mysteries of the universe. Until he met Li Qingyun, who is obviously a person full of desires and emotions, but in just a dozen years, he surpassed himself who had painstakingly studied the void for tens of thousands of years. Although he knew after entering the Marvel universe that Li Qingyun was able to grow so fast because Li Qingyun got the big clock and applied the technologies he studied in the big clock directly to himself. But he still had to admit that Li Qingyun further researched and developed the space dimension technology. This was a brand new technology that Li Qingyun and his eye developed in just a few years after entering the Super God universe. Death God Carl was sure that if this kind of thing was placed on him, even if he could eventually research it, it would never be done in a few years. Because he would never forcibly deprive a part of it for experiment without knowing the specific information of the universe membrane. What you said may be right, Socorro had no way to refute Death God Carl. In the past, they, the cosmic observers, were indeed basically equal to the celestial group. It was basically impossible for the celestial group to win or lose against them one-on-one. But in the battle between the Exterminator and the One lost so thoroughly, which shows that in these long years, the Celestials have become stronger, but their cosmic observers have never changed at all, and they are still exactly the same as before. I will seriously reflect on whether the past state of our cosmic observers was correct in the future, but now, how do you plan to deal with all this? Socorro looked at Li Qingyun. The most core issue now is the contradiction between the Celestials and the Shen civilization. The Celestials are likely to have a conflict with them, and once the Celestials come in groups, in Socorro's opinion, the Super God civilization will never be able to withstand their attack. This is a cosmic civilization that Socorro saw established and developed with his own eyes. Socorro does not want to see this Super God civilization destroyed. If they really come with a large army, we will respond with equal strength. Li Qingyun's attitude is the same as always. Chapter 383 Only One Battle. Are you going to confront the Celestials? Socorro was shocked. This is the Celestials, the most powerful force in the universe. Even the so-called five great gods cannot suppress them. After all, above the Celestials, there is a most powerful OAA. We are not fighting, We are just protecting. Li Qingyun never thought of fighting against the Celestials, because in his body, there are actually things of the Celestials, the energy factors of the Celestials. But the Earth is his, and the super god civilization was created by him. How could he let the things inside be destroyed by others casually? Since you are protecting, why didn't you meet the Judge Alisam in person and communicate with him properly when he came? Observer Socorro looked at Li Qingyun in confusion. Do you mean to let me kowtow to him and beg for his mercy on us? Li Qingyun's tone became heavy. This is the strength he should show when facing outsiders as the main god of Shen civilization. This is not groveling, nor is it begging, but it is a very good way to avoid disasters. Socorro didn't know what humility was. He only knew that this was the simplest solution. If I do what you said, maybe I can avoid conflict this time, but what about next time? Next time? Socorro was a little confused. My super god civilization is not the only planet with life. In fact, according to our detection, there are at least a dozen planets with seeds of the celestial god group in our super god civilization. Do we have to completely transfer people away from that planet to avoid these celestial god groups? If we really do that, won't the celestial god group think that we are preventing their new members from being born? Or do you think that if we kill these celestial god groups in the same way next time, you can still make them show mercy to us with a method you said? Li Qingyun's 3 questions in a row made Socorro completely dumbfounded. At that time, he was only considering the planet Earth, and only focusing on this incident, but he didn't consider the problems of other planets involved in this incident. This is a huge interstellar civilization involving dozens of life planets. In order to protect other life planets, Li Qingyun will inevitably have conflicts with these gods again. This first time, communication may be able to solve it, but what about the second time? How can such a thing be completely solved by just so-called communication? After all, events that happen again and again are equivalent to provocations again and again. So-called communication doesn't work. Even if we bow down and bend, it is impossible to solve such things. Only a tough attitude can make these gods understand our true position, and only then can we solve the continuous occurrence of such things once and for all. Li Qingyun said, this is his attitude on this trip, and this is the response plan he chose in the face of this incident with the gods. It is the famous saying of that great man that 1 punch is better than 100 punches. So, it's me who thinks things are too simple. At this moment, Socorro felt helpless about this incident, because he had no way and no reason to stop this war between the super god civilization and the gods. In order to maintain their dignity and status, the celestial god group will not hesitate to launch an attack on the super god civilization. And in order to maintain their interests and prevent such things from happening again, the super god civilization will inevitably fight back. There will inevitably be a battle between the two sides. Socorro, I know that the original intention of your trip is to help us protect the super god civilization, so we will remember your kindness, but this kind of thing can only be handled by ourselves, and you cosmic observers don't have to get involved. Li Qingyun looked at Socorro. Although Socorro's huge body, he stood in this hall and felt like a crane standing out among chickens. But at this moment, Li Qingyun sat on the throne in front of him, giving him a feeling as if he was looking up at a mountain. It turned out that they, the cosmic observers, had been surpassed by a newly rising technological civilization without knowing it. A younger and more dynamic technological civilization. Everyone, since we have all gathered together today, let's discuss how to deal with the possible attacks from the Celestials. Li Qingyun treated Socorro as an ordinary guest. The next thing was their internal discussion, not to meet the cosmic observer. Since the Celestials have touched the bottom line of our laws, we must fight back. As long as they dare to come, we must fight back. The first person to speak was the Skyblade King and Angel Yan, who inherited the title of Holy Kisha. Although this is not the super god's universe, she is still the most fierce fighting angel. Yes, they have come to our door. How can we sit and wait for death? Killen also spoke. After that, everyone also expressed their views together. When facing the Celestials, all of them have the same proposition. Even if they have to make enemies with all the Celestials, this battle must be fought. At present, there should be no more than 5 people on our side who are capable of fighting against the Celestials. Li Qingyun waved his hand to suppress everyone's excitement. The most important thing now is to count the combat power of our side and the strength that can compete with the Celestial group. In your super god civilization, besides you, are there any other people who can compete with the Celestial group? Socorro couldn't help but ask his own questions at this moment. This is the Celestial group, and even he, a cosmic observer, is not confident that he can defeat it. Carl, you should be able to do it, right? Li Qingyun turned his head and looked at the death god Carl on the left side of the hall. As the most powerful main god in the super god universe, and in existence who has developed the void technology to the extreme, he can be said to be the strongest one under Li Qingyun's command. Although he has never fought with anyone, even when Li Qingyun confronted him, he did not really fight, but in terms of performance, Li Qingyun has surpassed him. From the data of the celestial group that appeared outside the solar system before, I should have a way to suppress him. Death god Carl did not say that he was sure he could do it, but his suppression also showed that he was not afraid of the Judge Alisum. How is this possible? Socorro naturally understood what the god of death Carl meant, and looked at the unremarkable man in black robes in shock. I was busy with something and came back late. The next chapter may not be written until after midnight. Chapter 384, Combat Power That Can Be Used. Li Qingyun had no doubt that the god of death Carl had the strength to fight against the celestial group. When Li Qingyun called his name, the other people who came with the super god universe also had no doubt. But the original people in the Marvel universe, including those in the core circle like Hela and Wanda, did not know this. Even Hela thought that among the people who came with Li Qingyun, the strongest ones should be the Demon King Morgana and the Celestial King Hexy. After all, these two people gave her a very powerful feeling. Especially the Celestial King Hexy, she not only looks very powerful, but all other angels, including Angel Yen, are extremely respectful when facing Hexy. At that time, Hexy had not been confirmed by them to have a special relationship with Li Qingyun, so the respect of other angels could only be because of Hexy's strength and status. In addition, Hexy worked with Li Qingyun to study the existence of the most advanced technology. However, the truth was unexpected. Among the people who came with Li Qingyun, the most powerful one turned out to be the death god Carl, who had never shown his strength and had not had much contact with others. Besides you, who else do you think can compare with the data of the god group? Li Qingyun asked again. He was using the death god Carl as a model to compare the combat power level of the entire super god civilization. Heza, who has the space-based computing group, Liang Bing in peak state, and Liu Chuang and Kasa, should all be able to do it. Death god Carl gave his own inference, but among them, there are two people who were specifically reminded that it was under specific conditions. Indeed, when Heza left the Mellow Heavenly Court, he left the space-based computing group to Zhin, and Liang Bing also left various auxiliary means such as the small clock to Kaiyang Wei. Neither of them was in peak state. Li Qingyun recognized the statement of death god Carl. Didn't Sister Yan also give the treasure house of sacred knowledge and the king's armory to Anisid? If she was at her peak, she would definitely be able to do this. Angel Zhu stood up. She was a loyal subordinate of Angel Yan. Even now in the Marvel universe, she still regarded Angel Yan as the king of angels. I am indeed very strong with the treasure house of sacred knowledge, but in fact, my application of it and my performance in battle are not as good as theirs. Angel Yan didn't think that there was anything wrong with her being inferior to Heza and Morgana, because she was not as good as these two people. It was just that after Keisha's death, in order to support the Angel Legion and stabilize the situation, she temporarily took over the position of the King of Angels. Later, although she also went through the activation of the sub-biological engine, the blessing of the treasure house of sacred knowledge and the strengthening of Keisha's armory, her combat power reached the king level. But if she really wanted to fight with Morgana or Heza, I'm afraid she would still not get any benefits. Xianren Wang Yan, you misunderstood. The reason why I didn't call your name is not because I think you are not as good as the other four, but because you and Sun Wukong are special, Death God Carl explained. He didn't look down on Angel Yan and thought that Angel Yan was not as good as the previous few people, but the data of Angel Yan and Sun Wukong was something that Death God Carl couldn't see through. On the surface, it was because Li Qingyun should have provided them with some technology that could hide dark data information. It was also difficult to judge in actual combat analysis, because after Li Qingyun arrived in the Super God universe, the actual combat records of these two people were not many, and even if there were, they never needed to show their true strength. In this case, Death God Carl had no way to judge how strong these two people were. Since there was no way to judge their strength, there was naturally no way to compare whether there was a stronger Xianxin group. Well, your two data should not be in Carl's hands. All the others had experienced some special battles when they were in the Super God universe, but you two didn't, so it's not surprising that Carl couldn't judge it. Li Qingyun nodded, expressing his approval of Death God Carl's explanation. Seeing that even Li Qingyun said so, Angel Yan and Sun Wukong, who was a little unconvinced before but did not say anything, were also relieved. At least, the two of them were not considered inferior to the other four, but because they had not shown their strength in the later period, the Death God Carl could not make a judgment. Specifically, you two will show it in the field later, and Carl should be able to make a judgment. In addition, the big clock can also compare the data of the God group based on your data. Also, Sakura, the strength of your cosmic observers should be similar. Can you please upload your data to the big clock, and then let us screen out the people in the civilization who may reach this level, or whether several people can fight against them together? Li Qingyun looked at Sakura. Now they need to find more people who can compete with a God group, and count how many people in the Super God Academy can participate in this level of battle. I will upload a rough copy of my data. As for how much useful things you can get, it's up to you. Sakura has completely violated his code of conduct as a cosmic observer, but in this situation, he has no other choice but to continue to help. After all, he really likes this civilization, and he has already been deeply involved in it, so how can he continue to stay out of it? I understand, and I know the position of you cosmic observers. We will never involve you in the future battles. Li Qingyun is a person who clearly distinguishes between gratitude and resentment. At least what Sakura has done so far is to help them. Naturally, he will not let Sakura fall into a dilemma. Thank you very much, Sakura said, and then he went into hiding. He saw and heard this, and uploaded some data about his combat effectiveness. For him, this is enough. Everyone else, go and give it a try. Use the data from the big clock to simulate. If one person cannot compete with it, then find someone else to team up with. In short, the more people among you who can compete with a God group, the better for us. Li Qingyun looked at everyone else, and they all nodded. They also understood that for the current Super God civilization, what is needed is the top combat power. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 385 The Decision of the God Group. In the next few days, all the super warriors of the entire Super God civilization were involved in the simulated test. Referring to the combat power data left by Sakura, individuals who can fight against the Celestial Group were selected. Among them, Hizai, Morgana, Angel Yan, Keisha, Liu Chuang, Sun Wukong, Hila, Captain Marvel and Thor were barely able to compete with him. In addition, some teams of 2 or 3 people can also fight against the uploaded data of the Cosmic Observer. For example, Wanda is combined with Quicksilver and Hulk. Although Wanda is good at chaos magic, she must be weak, so she needs a strong warrior in front to help her withstand the opponent's attack, and another person can help her move quickly at the critical moment to bring her strength to the extreme. Keelan, Sutton and Angel Ling are the same. One is in frontal confrontation, one is a long-range sniper, and the other is a quick eater. Among the remaining people, Angel Zhu, Angel Unian, Angel Fangxing, Rui Mengmeng, He Weilan and Su Xiaoli also formed a team. They can cooperate with each other in battle and fight against a cosmic observer Sakura. Among the superheroes, Stark also led a team to form a temporary team, but the battlefield they could simulate could only be on land, because many of them did not have the ability to fly in space, so they could not exert their true combat power. Of course, Li Qingyun would also provide them with some solutions to the problems they faced, such as allowing super soldiers to have the ability to fly in space, so that they could be more flexible in battle. Li Qingyun had strengthened the people of Xiangbinglian when he was in the Super God universe, so it was naturally easy to do it again. At the same time, in the distant universe, the gods were actually gathering. However, they were not strengthening their own strength, but were finally discussing whether they should attack the Earth. These gods, each of which was larger than a planet, gathered in the starry sky, as if more than a dozen stars gathered together, and even the gravitational field in the surrounding galaxies had undergone extremely serious changes. Erisum, you said earlier that you would give them a last chance, but now, they are so disrespectful to you. This is a direct slap in the face of our Celestials. Exeter, the Eradicator, was accusing Erisum, the judge, because in his opinion, Erisum's trip to Earth was actually a disgrace to their Celestials. As a member of the Celestials, After arriving in the solar system, he couldn't even get in the door and was blocked by someone. In the billions of years since our celestials were born in the universe, when has such a shameful thing ever happened? Tester Zirin was also very unhappy at this moment. Although his duty was to test, as a member of the celestials, he also had his own pride. Exeter, Zirin, you two don't understand the situation at that time at all, and you don't know what the situation is like on Earth and the super god civilization. The judge was also very depressed at this moment. He was a member of the celestials, and it was fine for him to be defeated in the solar system, but now that he returned to the team, he was actually criticized by his companions. Didn't he have to save his face at all? No matter what civilization they are, as human beings, they treat us gods with such contempt, which is a serious sin in itself. The attitude of the exterminator Exeter was still tough. Exterminator Exeter, don't forget that the purpose of our existence as gods is to maintain the development of the universe, not to maintain our dignity, Judge Allison reminded solemnly. Don't forget that a group of gods was born on a planet with life, and then we will create a new planet with life. This is originally a process of the universe's cycle. Now it is those humans who violated the laws of the universe first. The exterminator Exeter did not give in at all. He was determined that the Earth should be a planet that should be liquidated. Enough, there should be no quarrels among the gods. Prosecutor Tefrel finally spoke, and his words made the two who were still arguing, Judge Allison and Exterminator, quiet down. The prosecutor's duty is to check whether the gods in various positions in the group of gods are fulfilling their duties, and he originally had the power to decide such important matters. Analyst, Prosecutor Tefrel turned his head and looked at a sky blue god on the team. He was the analyst in this team. It was his duty to analyze some situations in the universe, the subsequent development of the race and its nature. I'm afraid this war is inevitable, Analyst Genie answered, and as soon as he said this, Judge Allison knew that the war was doomed. What's the reason? Prosecutor Tefrel was still very rigorous in his work. Super God civilization is not just one or two planets in a single galaxy. Analyst Genie only answered this sentence, and all the gods present suddenly turned their heads and looked at Analyst Genie. Among the dozens of life planets under the rule of our super god civilization, there should be several seeds of gods sown among them. If we judge that the super god civilization is correct this time, then the other gods that have not been conceived will also be destroyed. This incident represents the most direct contradiction between this human civilization and our group of gods. Either we destroy the super god civilization and let them know that the authority of our gods cannot be challenged. When they face us in the future, they will have no choice but to avoid us, or we abandon all life planets related to the super god civilization from now on, and from now on, all the seeds of gods will no longer be able to be placed in their domain. In addition, if other planets in the universe know this news, they may choose to join the super god civilization at a critical moment, and then use the power of this civilization to fight against us. The authority and status of our group of gods will be challenged and hacked again and again. In the future, maybe our group of gods will no longer be able to develop new members. The analysis of Jimia's words instantly aroused the unanimous approval of all the groups of gods present. Originally, some people still considered whether they should go to war with an already formed civilization because of a seed of the celestial god group. Because judging from the data, the super god civilization is obviously a superior human civilization. But now, this has become a war between two groups, so they will never sit idly by. Then there is only one result: go to war. Prosecutor Tefrel made the final decision, and this time, Judge Allison did not object. Chapter 386. The fight has already begun before they even meet. It has been detected that a large number of celestials are flying towards the direction of the solar system. A large number of Eternals have appeared on many planets such as Luoxing and Qingyun. They are trying to destroy our civilization systems on various planets. Hyundai sent a message, reporting that a large spaceship is approaching the solar system from another direction, and it may be carrying a large number of Eternal warriors. The Big Claw quickly reported the current situation. The frontal attack of the Celestials has begun. The opponent's goal is undoubtedly to attack the Earth. Warning: there is a conceptual data containing powerful destructive energy that is attacking the human beings on Earth, trying to wipe them out directly from the universe. This message from the Big Clock immediately caused a huge sensation in the Super Seminary. What? Can all the human beings on Earth be wiped out directly through a piece of data? Stark looked at Li Qingyun in surprise. At this time, they could only place their hopes on Li Qingyun. This is the ability of Judge Allison, who can decide the survival or extinction of a race with just one formula. Li Qingyun may not know much about other celestials, but Judge Allison is the one he knows best. Because, among the Celestials that have appeared in the movie, he is the one who has been introduced the most, and Li Qingyun has actually seen only him. Huh? So powerful? Then how can we fight? Black Widow was dumbfounded at this moment. This formula can destroy the ability of a race. How can they compete with it? This is just a special concept attack. By using the corresponding energy to fight it, this so-called attack can be completely ineffective. Death God Karl also gradually emerged in this incident. When meeting with Socorro, everyone knew that Death God Karl was actually the strongest one among the people Li Qingyun brought back this time, and now facing the attack of the Celestials, it was Death God Karl who first found a way to deal with it. Big Clock, analyze the formula of Judge Allison and strike back with an equal concept. Even if we cannot severely damage the Celestial God group, at least make their attacks completely ineffective, Li Qingyun ordered, and the Big Clock immediately began to operate. At the same time, in the Super God Academy, a large number of scholars and scientists were also watching the data system of the Big Clock at any time. As the most powerful celestial computer, the Big Clock's ability is unquestionable. But no matter how powerful a machine is, it still needs people to operate it. Li Qingyun is now in charge of the overall situation, and it is impossible for him to pay attention to the situation of the Big Clock and the situation of the entire battle at any time, so he needs these scholars and scientists to help him control the battlefield. They are like the operators on Demon Number 1 and Skyblade Number 7, except that they are not super soldiers like those operators. As the Big Clock responded, an invisible force that was constantly affecting all humans on Earth completely disappeared at this moment. Even Judge Allison, who was on his way, felt an extremely strong resistance force, which made his huge body feel a little uncomfortable. Your energy has fluctuated. Prosecutor Tefro looked at Judge Allison. Those are things have found a way to crack my attack. My plan to directly wipe out the Earth race through the formula has failed. Judge Allison answered, and Prosecutor Tefro nodded silently after hearing his words. If the super god civilization was really that easy to deal with, they wouldn't have to gather so many members of the Celestials together like they are now. The solar system is ahead. They have built a special defense system in the tunnel at the edge of the solar system. Judge Allison pointed forward, pointing to an empty area there. The new defense system built by Li Qingyun there not only prevents the coordinates of the Earth from being found by people from the outside world, but also prevents powerful guys like the Celestials from directly crossing this barrier and entering the solar system. I was wondering why we couldn't directly travel across the universe to Earth before. It turns out that they set up such a thing to hinder our progress, the exterminator said. Now there is no prejudice or dispute between him and the Judge Allison. When he spoke to Allison, he was not as aggressive as before. Analyst, Judge Allison turned around and looked at the blue-looking analyst Genia. Understood, analyst Genia answered, and then the 6 eyes on his face flashed at the same time. The defense system outside the solar system was quickly read by him, and he also began to analyze what the defense distance of this system was. Someone is analyzing the solar system defense system, trying to directly destroy the solar system defense system to enter the interior of the solar system. In the control hall of the super seminary, a scholar immediately noticed this situation. The Big Clock also uploaded the relevant data to the hall where Li Qingyun was at the first time. The Celestials are a special organization. In addition to Judge Allison, there should be eradicators, prosecutors, collectors, analysts, and measurers, etc. All kinds of Celestials with different abilities and functions, Li Qingyun said. So, now it is that analyst who is trying to crack our solar system defense system, Death God Karl asked. With a large clock providing sufficient energy, even the Celestials can hardly break our defense system directly. Now, everyone is trying to constantly change the various parameter data of our solar system defense system, hiding our energy data as much as possible, so that the analyst's analysis will never find the correct answer. Li Qingyun made a quick judgment, and at the same time, in the control hall of the super seminary, all the scholars immediately began to operate. In addition, send a message to Ariel, let her lead the young generation on Qingyun Star to come to Earth to assist the scholars of the super seminary to act together. Li Qingyun issued another order, and soon, Ariel had received the relevant news in the branch of the super seminary on Qingyun Star. Almost immediately, she brought everyone here and started heading to Earth, including Mabel, Peter Parker, Michelle Jones, Ned Leeds, etc. Note, the Spider-Man trio has been on Qingyun Star, and they are now a small group with Ariel. Chapter 387 Humans and Gods. What a powerful self-updating data ability. It can actually make the defense so perfect during my continuous attack, Exeter sighed while analyzing. As a member of the Celestial Group, and a full-time analyst, he could be said to be the only one who could compare with him in this aspect. But now, his dignified Celestial Group took action personally, and the other side was just a group of humans, who completely avoided his analysis, making it impossible for him to destroy the defense system of this solar system. I'll help you, Calculator Nezer stood up. This blue Celestial was a calculator. In the Celestial Group, he, like the analyst, explorer, tester and surveyor, was a scientific research Celestial. So, the analyst and calculator in the Celestial Group joined forces and began to carry out a continuous data energy attack on the defense system of this solar system. The attack from the other side suddenly doubled, and our calculation speed is almost unable to keep up. All the scholars in the Super God Academy felt a huge pressure at this moment. The algorithm of the big clock is still being strengthened, but now it also needs their assistance. There are hundreds of them, but at this moment, they can't withstand this sudden addition of power from the other side. We are here. Ariel walked out of the space channel, followed by a large group of young people, who came from Qingyun Star to support. They were all students who were still in the learning stage. The algorithm is too difficult. If we rely on ourselves, even if the number of people increases tenfold, I'm afraid we won't be able to keep up, Dr. Pym sighed. Even if they were all known as geniuses in the past, now involving the top algorithm of super god technology, when they are fighting against strong people like the Celestial God Group, their abilities seem so weak. There is no need to be so self-deprecating. You just haven't been in contact for a long time and don't know enough. Above the control hall, several figures suddenly appeared. They turned out to be several very important people around Li Qingyun, including the god of death Karl, the demon king Morgana and the sky king Hexi. Now, we will guide you. You will follow my instructions and help us complete the confrontation, Izai said, and the scholars and scientists nodded silently after hearing what Izai said. After that, under the guidance of the three top science and technology gods, almost all the scholars of the Super God Academy of the Super God Civilization began to recalculate. For a time, the algorithm confrontation between humans and gods was carried out at a distance of nearly light years. The power of the God group had been greatly enhanced after the addition of the calculator, and they had already occupied an absolute upper hand. But in the blink of an eye, the opponent actually made a relative reaction, and the advantage they had just gained was immediately lost. What kind of civilization is this? It actually has the power to compete with our God group. The Eradicator Exeter was also shocked at this time. It shows that the formula used by the Judge Alisum has been cracked, and they can't directly destroy the population of the Earthlings. Now the analyst Geniad and the calculator Nezer have joined forces to attack the solar system defense system of the Earth, but they can't destroy it. Although this super god civilization was formed by a group of humans, they have already become a god-level civilization through technology and other means, Judge Alisum said so. It was for this reason that he felt that this was a civilization worth preserving. Because, with such strong creativity and development power, it may soon become a special group unprecedented in the universe, even surpassing the universe observers. But who would have thought that such an excellent civilization would become a special existence with great contradictions between them and the Celestials? If analysis and calculation cannot destroy this defense system, then use brute force to forcibly blast it open. Don't forget, as the Celestials, our most powerful ability is absolute power, Prosecutor Tefril said, and then suddenly raised his right hand and began to accumulate strength in the air. Not good. These Celestials are going to use force on the solar system defense system. Liu Chuang saw the golden Celestials approaching with their fists raised. Prosecutor Tefril, I will send someone to support you immediately. Now, block their first attack. Li Qingyun sent a message to Liu Chuang in front of him. At the same time, Liu Chuang had raised the black cutter in his hand and floated up from the steel deck of the defense system. Liu Chuang did not have angel wings for flying, but in the past 20 years, he has gradually mastered the ability to control the energy of dark matter to change his ability to fly directly in space. Don't worry, before the support comes, even if I die, they can't think of crossing the solar system defense system, Liu Chuang responded, and the next moment he appeared outside the solar system defense system and in front of the gods. Facing the attack of Prosecutor Tefril, the other side actually only sent out one person, the exterminator Exeter said in disbelief. Don't underestimate this human. When I came that day, he was the first person I met, and then the universe observer Sakura persuaded me, Judge Allison reminded him, and his words did not seem to be a big deal to the exterminator Exeter, but the prosecutor was cautious in his heart. He would not have the slightest prejudice against Judge Allison's words like Exeter the Eradicator did. He was sure that since Judge Allison said so, the human being on the other side must be a very powerful existence. However, since the attack had already begun, he had absolutely no intention of stopping. The huge fist that had accumulated strength still blasted forward directly. Although the movements of the Celestial seemed slow, this huge body like a star, with one hand, was like a moon directly hitting the position where Liu Chuang was. Come on, let me see how strong you so-called Celestials are. While Liu Chuang was speaking, the black cutting in his hand directly condensed a layer of golden energy. That was the power that Liu Chuang mastered after becoming the true god of war of No Star, which was enough to split the planet. Go! With a roar, the black cutting in his hand was thrown out directly, like a meteor, hitting the fist of the prosecutor Tefril. A strong light exploded directly at the moment when the battle axe and the fist touched. Although there was no sound in the vacuum, the strong flash, the shaking of prosecutor Tefril's fist, and his body unconsciously taking 2 steps back were enough to explain everything. Chapter 388, God? I, old son, am fighting against the god. How is this possible? Seeing the prosecutor Tefril who was blasted back 2 steps, even his arms were shaking, the Eradicator Exeter was shocked. This was an attack launched by their celestial god group. Although the prosecutors were not as powerful as the Eradicator, it was still a powerful attack by the celestial god group. A celestial god group, fighting against humans, turned out to be the celestial god group that was at a disadvantage. How could he not be shocked? However, they did not know that Liu Chuang was also shocked at the moment. He had used all his strength just now, exerting the power of his No-Star god of war to split the stars. But such a powerful force, after colliding with his celestial god group member, only pushed the opponent back a few steps. If they really went to war, it might be hard to say whether he could beat the opponent. Liu Chuang, good job. Just when Liu Chuang did not know whether he could beat the celestial god group, a voice came from behind him. The owner of this voice was Sun Wukong, who came to support. In addition, Angel Yan, Thornton and other super warriors from the Super Gods universe who followed Li Qingyun also came here at this moment. They gathered together to form a line of defense. Although there were only a dozen people, each of them was so powerful that even if not every one of them could compete with a group of gods, at least a few people could still fight against them together. Sorry, we are late. A spaceship appeared on the defense system below, and a large number of superheroes came out of the spaceship. Hela, Wanda, Stark and others were all in it. At the same time, a rainbow of light fell from above, and from the light, Thor, the evil god Loki, and many Asgard warriors, including the 3 warriors of the Asgard Palace, also arrived at the battlefield. A little further back, there were other troops of the super god civilization who came from other planets to support, which naturally included the Shen Mecha team led by the Devouring King. Want to win by numbers? These humans are too naive, the Eradicator Exeter taunted. No, there are several people here who are as powerful as the human who just blocked the attorney's punch, Analyst Genia said after shaking his head. Exterminator Exeter also fell silent after hearing his words. There are several guys who are as powerful as Liu Chuang, which means that there may be many people in the other team who can compete with him. This small human civilization actually has the power to challenge their celestial group, and it is not just 1 or 2 people who have it. Let the Eternals launch an attack. It's time for these tools to play their due role, Judge Allison said. Almost at the moment when he finished speaking, the huge spaceship appeared on their side, and then a large number of guys in armor flew out from the cube-like spaceship. These are the warriors of the Eternals, and their number has reached thousands, and many of them have shown strong abilities. Attacks like Cyclops, just after they appeared, hundreds of them shot towards the solar system defense system. However, the solar system defense system does not rely solely on super soldiers and superheroes. Inside the defense system, some staff responsible for controlling the defense system directly activated the weapons on the defense system to intercept these lasers. At the same time, a large number of bullets began to rain down on the Eternals outside. Although these bullets are just regular armor-piercing bullets, the damage that bullets can cause to a special group like the Eternals is very limited. But the problem is that there are too many bullets and they are too dense, so they can easily hit the target. After the bullets hit the target, the impact force and a little pain will definitely give these Eternals a headache. In addition, the most important point is that the bullets are just a cover. Behind the bullets, laser weapons are launched. The power of these laser weapons is much stronger than bullets. Once they hit, if the Eternals are not good at physical defense, they will basically not be able to withstand it. Not to mention that there are occasionally a few god-killing number 1 bullets mixed in among these lasers. Speedsters, use your speed advantage to destroy those weapons. The Eternals who were in charge of the command immediately began to redeploy after discovering that they were blocked by these bullets. They ordered those extremely fast guys to attack directly at the weapon port of the solar system defense system. Shen Meches, kill these attackers. The Devourer King was the first to react when he saw the appearance of those speedsters. He ordered the Shen Meches to attack, and each of the Shen Meches had a combat power no less than that of the 2nd or 3rd generation super soldiers. Many of them also had the ability of the Void, which was enough to suppress these Eternals who were also created by the Void, and they could not resist at all. The attack launched by thousands of Eternals was completely blocked by the defensive firepower of the solar system defense system itself and the defense of hundreds of Shen Meches. What a bunch of trash! The Exterminator Exeter could no longer bear it. He waved his hand and summoned a huge scepter, and then rushed towards the solar system defense system. The scepter in his hand was raised, and it was clear that he was going to smash the solar system defense system directly, and smash the solar system defense system directly. Stop him! Li Qingyun knew when the Judge Alasam came last time that these gods had the ability to destroy the solar system defense system at will. After all, Alasam, who was unarmed at that time, just grabbed it casually, and that section of the solar system defense system was completely destroyed. So now facing such a fierce attack from the gods, he naturally understood that if this move was hit, then the defense system would be completely destroyed. I'll do it. Sun Wukong rushed out suddenly, swinging the dark alloy rod in his hand. The moment he swung it, the dark alloy rod expanded, became longer and bigger, like a huge mace, and smashed directly on the scepter of the gods. With a bang, the two huge weapons collided with each other, and countless sparks flew out at the place where they touched. At this moment, everyone in the entire space could clearly see that countless sparks were flashing. A mere ant dares to challenge the gods, the Eradicator Exeter questioned angrily. Gods? I was born to challenge the gods. After Sun Wukong finished speaking, his body began to expand continuously at this moment. Law of Heaven and Earth. Chapter 389 Death Carlin Judge Alasam. The Law of Heaven and Earth is one of the abilities possessed by Sun Wukong, the Fighting Buddha. Although it is not as powerful as in fantasy novels, this move, which is displayed through technological means, also makes Sun Wukong have a strong fighting power. Moreover, after Li Qingyun became friends with Sun Wukong, Li Qingyun began to consider helping Sun Wukong strengthen himself. One of them is that in the animation, Sun Wukong needed to be replenished with energy by Rina to fully release various abilities, but now he can use them with ease by relying on himself. At this moment, Sun Wukong was standing above the solar system defense system. After performing the Law of Heaven and Earth, he was like a majestic god. In the confrontation with the Exterminator in the god group, he was not at all inferior. Instead, it seemed that he was going to crush the opponent in terms of momentum. What is your ability? Exterminator asked in surprise. He did not expect that there would be someone in the world who had such an ability. The most important thing is that it is not just a body that becomes bigger, but the power emanating from it has also become stronger. There was a feeling that this person should not be a horse building, but a natural god like himself. Law of Heaven and Earth. Specially used to deal with big guys like you. After Sun Wukong finished speaking, he swung the dark alloy rod in his hand. This dark alloy rod had become as huge as his body. At this moment, as Sun Wukong swung it, it carried infinite power and smashed directly at the body of the Exterminator. The Exterminator also raised the scepter in his hand at this time and placed it horizontally in front of himself to block Sun Wukong's attack. Bang! There was another huge roar. Even in this original vacuum area, with the battle between the two sides now unfolding and the addition of various forces, the vacuum nature has changed. This was controlled by Li Qingyun behind the scenes, because most of the superheroes could not survive without oxygen, so Li Qingyun needed to call in air to fill that area. In fact, at the moment the battle began, Li Qingyun modified the space environment in that area through the big clock. It's just that the guys in the Celestial God group didn't know about this change, And the people in the super god civilization didn't care too much because they knew it a long time ago. Everyone else, all attack. We can't waste time with them in this space sugarcane farmer. The big clock provides us with energy, but it needs to constantly mobilize energy from the universe, Sun Wukong reminded. They are all super soldiers. The ability of super soldiers is not generated out of thin air. This needs to be exerted through the transformation of energy in the universe. On weekdays, this transformation can be achieved by super soldiers through the dark matter computer in their bodies, but now entering this high-intensity cosmic war, they need celestial computers as support. In this case, with so many people's continuous consumption, the big clock naturally needs to absorb more energy, and it may even have to forcibly speed up the operation of the stars to increase energy absorption. This consumption mode is an excessive consumption for the universe. Although the super god civilization is very tough when dealing with the celestial god group, they respect the operating rules of the universe itself. They will not consume the energy in the universe at will, causing the balance of cosmic energy to be wantonly broken. Of course, when necessary, you won't care so much. It's a matter of life and death. Who will care about this and that with you? Yes, we will launch the attack now, Li Qingyun agreed, and all the super soldiers and superheroes around rushed out. Their target is the Celestials in front, those powerful members of the Eternals. They want to eradicate all these invading guys. So, a huge interstellar war between gods and humans broke out in the edge of the solar system. All the people in the Celestials took action, including the Judge Alyssum, the Eradicator, the Prosecutor, and more than a dozen Celestials, without holding back. Although the super god civilization has an advantage in numbers, it is behind in the situation, because among them, except for a few, the others often need to join forces to get entangled with one of the Celestials. The battle in front has broken out in full swing, and you should also go to support it quickly. Li Qingyun's voice appeared in the control hall. There were also the three strongest fighters of the super god civilization, the heavenly king Hizai, the demon king Morgana, and the god of death Karl. When these three people heard Li Qingyun's message, they immediately agreed, and then instantly transferred to space through the space wormhole. Morgana found the analyst Geniat, Hizai's opponent was the prosecutor Tefril, and the opponent of the god of death Karl was the judge Alyssum. These three people who suddenly appeared instantly involved the three powerful fighters in the celestial god group, and the attack of the god of death Karl seemed to be understated, but it put the judge Alyssum under tremendous pressure. Between the waves of the god of death Karl, he was directly transferred from the original area to the top of a star thousands of light years away, and his feet stepped directly on the surface of the star. Although the scorching heat did not melt the feet of the judge Alyssum, he still felt a little hot. The most important thing is that when the god of death Karl raised his hand, the star exploded directly. The impact of the explosion made Judge Alyssum feel that his body was about to explode completely. Under the attack of the supernova, he, an extremely powerful god, seemed to be on the verge of death. However, he did not die, even though the feeling of his death was extremely real. He kept feeling that his life was passing away, but in fact, it was not. This is not real. Finally, Judge Alyssum recovered from the fear of death. He finally realized that everything he had just experienced and everything he had seen were just illusions. Illusions appeared in his mind. This is indeed not real, but I can make it all real. The expression of the god of death Karl was still calm, but the words he said were like ice corroding his heart at this moment, making Judge Alyssum feel very scared. Who are you? Why do people feel so weird? Judge Alyssum looked at the god of death Karl. Originally, he thought that Liu Trang was terrifying enough to make him pay attention and to block the attack of prosecutor Tefril. But now he found that this seemingly harmless handsome man was actually more dangerous. Chapter 390 The Lord of Shen is here. In my world, they all like to call me, God of Death. God of Death Karl answered casually. God of Death? Like Hela, Arsum's eyes turned to Hela who was fighting with a group of gods not far away. The title is the same, but in essence, there should be a big difference. God of Death Karl naturally knew that Hela also had the title of God of Death. He also learned that Hela's so-called God of Death was not the same concept as his own. Hela's God of Death was because she had conquered the 9 realms and laid a vast territory for Asgard. Then she killed many enemies on the battlefield. When people saw her on the battlefield, they saw her as if they saw the God of Death, so they gave her such a title of God of Death. Karl's God of Death was because he was keen on studying death. For God of Death Karl, death is a concept, a brand new way of life that can transcend survival and get rid of the limitations of life. Although the current god of death Karl no longer continues his research, this concept is rooted in his heart and has long been firmly bound to his name. So, God of Death Karl, this is the best description of Karl. Since you are the god of death, why do you want to be with these humans? Your life form is obviously different from that of so-called humans. Judge Alisum is also a very powerful existence in the group of gods, and he is the one with the most outstanding knowledge. In his opinion, the god of death Karl in front of him is obviously different from other super soldiers and superheroes. He has a life form that is completely different from all other humans. But why is such a person still with those ordinary humans, and is willing to be their vanguard, actively charging on such a battlefield? Because there is a god of chaos. He has completely conquered me, God of Death Karl answered without any hesitation. And the god of chaos he mentioned is naturally the lord of the Shen River of this super god civilization, Li Qingyun. The existence of Li Qingyun made God of Death Karl fall from the altar at once when he thought he had surpassed everyone and became the most powerful existence in the entire universe. At the same time, Li Qingyun also showed him a world beyond the conventional universe, allowing the current Death God Karl to jump out of the known universe of the world where the Super God Academy is located and embark on the journey of the current dimensional universe. This kind of cross-dimensional journey, this kind of deeper exploration of the universe, can be said to be what the Death God Karl dreams of most. Li Qingyun, do you really think that Li Qingyun is so powerful that it is worth all of you to fight with us gods for him? Judge Alisum turned around and looked at the gods and humans who had already been fighting in a wall. The people in the human camp looked like a group of ants besieging a group of huge elephants. But after the battle began, the war was not one-sided. On the contrary, at some level, the two sides fell into a relatively balanced state. It can be said that in the current situation, if one side suddenly has a stronger helper, it may be able to directly turn the tide and let this originally balanced battle instantly pour into the side with helpers. If the Lord of the Divine River takes action at this time, then wouldn't it be? When the Judge Alisum thought of this, he felt extremely uneasy. In this situation, he even felt that he had no way to defeat the Death God Karl in front of him. But the Death God Karl highly praised Li Qingyun. This at least shows that Li Qingyun's strength is stronger than that of the Death God Karl. If Li Qingyun comes, their god group will definitely lose. Since you already know, why don't you retreat? Suddenly, Li Qingyun's voice appeared in space. A figure sitting on the throne appeared out of thin air in the middle of the battlefield. Almost instantly, everyone in all the god group turned their heads to look over. Li Qingyun, the lord of the divine river of the super god civilization, finally appeared at this moment, but there was no trace of nervousness on him. He even held a little girl with a pair of big eyes in his arms. If this is not Xiaoyan, who else could it be? Old Li, what are you thinking? You're here on the battlefield and you're bringing Xiaoyan with you. Wanda immediately got anxious. She usually called him dear, but now she was so anxious that she called him Old Li. It's okay. Xiaoyan is very brave and is not afraid of watching this kind of battle scene. Li Qingyun smiled, and his face was still relaxed. Really? Wanda complained, but she didn't rush over to grab Xiaoyan and take her away. Although she was worried about Xiaoyan's safety, she also knew that there was no place in the world that was safer than when she was in Li Qingyun's arms. Arism, you guys from the Celestial God Group, are you still unwilling to retreat? Li Qingyun questioned. He didn't mean to take action at the moment, but he clearly had energy mobilizing on his body, which meant that as long as the Celestial God Group dragged on, if they didn't mean to retreat, then he would have to take action himself. We represent the order of the universe, the duty of all the gods and gods in the entire multiverse, so we have to stay on this battlefield, Judge Alisum answered like this. For him, his life and death are not important, but if he takes the lead and leads all the gods to leave this battlefield today, then he will no longer have the face to face other gods in the future. There is no face to see the supreme existence. So, are you going to fight us here to the end? The moment Li Qingyun spoke, a powerful force instantly burst out from his body, and an unprecedented oppressive force appeared on the gods. The aura on their bodies, in this instant, became unstable. This is a responsibility and mission, we must stick to it. After Judge Alisum finished speaking, he clenched his fists, but he was ready to attack Li Qingyun directly. Then, Life Court, what do you think? Li Qingyun suddenly raised his head and looked into the distant starry sky. As soon as his words came out, an inexplicable thought suddenly appeared in the hearts of everyone in every god group. The 4 words Life Court made people feel very terrified even if they just said them. as if they had suddenly touched the true peak and taboo existence of this world. Chapter 391 The Decision of the Life Court. After Li Qingyun finished speaking, a force soon spread from space, and then a virtual picture appeared out of thin air. In that picture, there was a huge head with 3 faces. The moment it appeared, all the members of the celestial god group knelt on one knee and bowed their heads to salute respectfully. The Life Tribunal, the judge and arbiter of all the true gods in the universe, is the most authoritative existence created by OAA. It can be said to be the representative of justice of OAA. The celestial god group itself is also the universe manager created by OAA, and the power of OAA is the sum of all celestial god groups. But OAA never intervenes in the affairs of all the cosmic entities below, whether it is the 5 great gods or the celestial god groups. Therefore, the Life Tribunal is responsible for judging when there are some very important things between the celestial god groups and the 5 great gods that they cannot solve internally. You can actually sense my existence, and even pull me out directly with just one sentence. Your existence has reached a height that ordinary humans cannot reach. In the Life Tribunal, the face that represents equality opened its mouth and spoke to Li Qingyun. But what you did to the celestial god group is a challenge to the order of the universe and a provocation to the authority of the gods. The face of revenge suddenly turned around and shouted at Li Qingyun. The existence of life is a process of breaking through the limitations of nature step by step, from weak to strong. Fighting is what they need in their lives. The last of the 3 faces, the face that represents need, also turned around and spoke at this moment. The Life Tribunal, 3 faces and 3 wills gathered in one body, which led to its final judgment, which must be fair and just, in order to let the Life Tribunal and such an absolutely fair ideology manage all cosmic entities and cosmic gods. Well, then what is your final decision? Li Qingyun asked, but there was still no fear or uneasiness on his face. For Li Qingyun, since the celestial god group already exists, the Life Tribunal is something he had expected to encounter. In addition, Li Qingyun can also be sure of the existence of the 5 great gods and the supreme OAA. Although he has not seen them yet, and cannot even touch their life forms. Will you become one of those dimensional demons full of infinite destructive power? The face representing justice turned back. Although the other 2 faces had different emotions, they chose to remain silent at the same time. At this time, what they need to judge most is whether Li Qingyun is a real human or has been promoted to the so-called cosmic demon. The battle between the Life Tribunal and the demons happens from time to time, and sometimes the Life Tribunal will even be killed, so the Life Tribunal attaches great importance to the demons. As for why the Life Tribunal can be killed by the demons, it can only be said that the power given to them by OAA is not very strong, otherwise how can someone kill it? In Li Qingyun's opinion, among all these cosmic entities, the power of the 5 gods may be stronger than that of the Life Court, but the Life Court represents OAA, which is the highest official of all cosmic entities and gods, responsible for judgment and trial. Therefore, whether it is the 5 gods or all other members of the god group in the universe, they will be extremely respectful to it and basically obey its orders. But the demons are different. They are originally against the gods, so they naturally don't care about the authority of the so-called Life Court. As long as they have enough power, they can naturally kill the Life Court. Under the same circumstances, it is difficult for the demons to kill the 5 gods, especially the eternity and death. One represents infinite creation, and the other represents annihilation of death. Their power is originally extremely powerful. The most important thing is that the 5 gods will not take the initiative to get involved in disputes over various things in the universe, which is completely different from the Life Court, which will occasionally judge the contradictions between gods and cosmic entities, and even take the initiative to attack the demons to prevent them from destroying the order of the universe. Therefore, the death of the living tribunal appears from time to time in comics, but have you ever seen eternity and death die in comics? However, there is one god among the 5 gods who is often beaten up and killed, and those who are familiar with the stories of the Marvel world know it. Is I a demon god? You should be able to judge for yourself, right? As for what happened in front of you, I believe you can also know, Li Qingyun said. His almost fair way of dialogue with the living tribunal shocked the gods kneeling below and the Asgardian gods who knew the truth about the existence of the living tribunal. This is the arbiter of the will of the highest gods of all multiverses and super-universes. It is the existence with the highest status and authority in the universe when OAA has never appeared. Why is Li Qingyun still so disrespectful to it? The living tribunal fell into deep thought. At this moment, Its three faces were constantly changing their thoughts. It was clearly thinking about how to judge this matter. Only when the three faces give the same answer in the end, the judgment can be finally completed, which is also the main reason why it can make the most fair judgment. Judge, prosecutor, today's matter ends here. The Celestial God Group will withdraw from the scope of the Super God civilization from now on, and will no longer interfere with the changes of any life planet within the scope of the Super God civilization. At the same time, Li Qingyun, the Lord of Shen, although your Shen civilization is special, you are a civilization that exists in the universe after all, and you need to follow the natural laws of the universe. In the future, when you encounter a planet with seeds of the Celestial God Group, you must not interfere with it, nor convey the news of the existence of the seeds of the Celestial God Group to the original inhabitants of the planet in any form, if it is exposed. You will need to provide life energy on your own to help the Celestial God Group on this planet complete the breeding. This is the judgment. Are you both willing to accept it? The face of the Life Court, which represents justice, looked at Li Qingyun in front and the Celestial God Group below at the same time. It is reasonable, I can accept it. Li Qingyun spoke first. He was the first to take action at the beginning. Now the judgment of the Life Court has maintained his existing interests and provided a model for the two sides to get along in the future. Naturally, he would not have any objections. We obey the verdict. The situation for the gods was even simpler. They all agreed with the verdict of the Life Court. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 392, One Sword Can Open Up a Dimension of Space. Seeing that Li Qingyun and the people of the Celestial God Group had no objections, the Life Tribunal naturally nodded with satisfaction. Well, very good, the Life Tribunal said with satisfaction. After that, it looked at Li Qingyun again, and the three faces switched one after another, observing carefully, and then returned to the fair face again. You also have the genes of the Celestial God Group in your body. Are you willing to become a new Celestial God Group and replace the original Celestial God Group on your Earth as a member? The Life Tribunal asked, and its words made everyone in the Super God civilization and the Celestial God Group inexplicably stunned. Li Qingyun actually has the genes of the Celestial God Group in his body, and the Life Tribunal actually took the initiative to invite him to join the Celestial God Group. Isn't this a bit too dramatic? I have my own civilization to take care of, and I have my family to protect. I won't be like you, who only knows how to maintain the so-called balance of the universe in a fair and just manner. I was born a selfish person. When Li Qingyun said the last sentence, it was clearly a derogatory word, but at this moment, everyone in the Super God civilization who heard it was extremely excited. Because they all understood that the selfishness that Li Qingyun was talking about was his selfishness in his own civilization. The Celestial God Group creates life planets to breed a new batch of Celestial God Groups. Although these Celestial God Groups will destroy their own planets, they will also create another life planet. This is called repetition and endless life, and the main focus is on the balanced development of the universe. But Li Qingyun will not choose to compromise on such things just because this is the normal development of the universe. Since these life planets are under his jurisdiction, he will protect all the lives here. As for whether the Celestial God Group can continue to maintain their balance, it doesn't matter to him at all. I understand. The Life Tribunal naturally understood what Li Qingyun meant, and this kind of selfishness, appearing in a human life form, was normal and necessary in his opinion. But if this was what a Celestial God Group possessed, it would not be appropriate. You are standing from the perspective of being a human being, so it is your responsibility to protect your homeland and your people. However, you have the powerful power of the Celestial God Group, and I hope you will not use this power to invade. The Super God civilization should not use this as a basis for barbaric expansion. The Life Tribunal was giving Li Qingyun a reminder, reminding him not to bully others. The Super God civilization will not expand outward through force, and I will abide by the original agreement with the Celestial God Group. Li Qingyun gave his own answer. Then, let's stop here today. After saying that, the figure of the Life Tribunal began to gradually blur. It had returned to the depths of the universe again, hiding in a corner that no one had ever seen or sensed. After that, unless such a major event involving the gods happened again, it would not appear in front of anyone again. After the Life Tribunal left, the Celestials stood up again, gathered together, and looked at Li Qingyun. Although we cannot understand why you have the power of a god but want to fight against us, we respect the judgment of the Life Tribunal, said the prosecutor Tefril. This time, not only did the judge Alisam and others not say anything, but even the most radical exterminator Exeter chose to remain silent. The judgment of the Life Tribunal is something that all of them Celestials will never violate, so they will not take any measures against the super god civilization in the future, and they will act in accordance with the previous judgment of the Life Tribunal. I see that you still seem to be a little dissatisfied in your hearts. Do you think that everything today is entirely due to the intervention of the Life Tribunal? If there is no Life Tribunal, you can actually defeat us easily. When Li Qingyun said this, his eyes turned to the Exeter. Li Qingyun has chaos magic, and it is upgraded chaos magic, so even if the Exeter is a member of the Celestials, his thoughts can still be sensed by Li Qingyun. You can see through my thoughts? The Eradicator Exeter looked at Li Qingyun in surprise. Yes, I can see. Li Qingyun did not hide it and directly admitted the fact. I am just curious, with the genes of the Celestial God group, how powerful do you have to make all of them obey you? And even the Lord of the Life Tribunal thinks that you are right. The Eradicator Exeter said this directly. Knowing that Li Qingyun could see through his thoughts, he did not need to deliberately hide himself. I can give you a chance to challenge me, Li Qingyun said with a smile. No, the Lord of the Life Tribunal just said that there can be no more conflicts between us and you. The reason why the Eradicator Exeter did not express his thoughts before was because he did not want to violate the judgment of the Life Tribunal. Now he would naturally not fight with Li Qingyun. This is not a conflict, it's just a competition, so stop it, Li Qingyun explained. The Eradicator Exeter hesitated. He wanted to try it in his heart, but he really didn't want to violate the will of the Life Tribunal. To prevent any damage to the universe in battle, I can open up a new space for you to perform better, Li Qingyun said, and raised his right hand. In his hand, the heavenly sword appeared. As the longsword in his hand chopped down, a huge space crack appeared in front of everyone, between Li Qingyun and the exterminator. In the open space crack, a completely different space appeared. It was a strange space that Li Qingyun forcibly opened up. It was not a microcosm of the soul gem, nor was it his dark matter plane space. It was more like a strange world of a dimensional demon god, which was forcibly created by Li Qingyun with his powerful strength and the ability of the cosmic cube. So strong, the exterminator subconsciously took a half step back. His body was as huge as a star, and this half step back caused a huge movement. It was so huge that everyone present could see at a glance how shocked the exterminator was at this moment. In fact, this shock was not only felt by Exeter, but also by all the celestial gods and all the warriors of the super god civilization. They all guessed that Li Qingyun was very strong, ridiculously strong. But they still didn't expect that Li Qingyun could actually do it, and open up a whole new universe with just one sword. Chapter 393 Above the Gods. It's just using the power of the Infinity Stones. It's nothing, Li Qingyun said casually. However, his casual words seemed even more unfathomable to the celestial gods. They, the celestial gods, were born from the beginning of the universe just like the Infinity Stones, so they knew exactly what kind of power the Infinity Stones possessed. The power of the Space Stones could indeed control space, but it was definitely not something that could be done by relying solely on the power of the Space Stones. At the very least, at the moment of opening up space, you must have a complete understanding of the entire universe in your heart. You must also think about what this space is like at the moment of opening up. To completely create a space, you must know how to create this space. Even for the celestial gods, it is impossible to understand the universe to such an extent. Even if the entire celestial gods joined forces to create such a space, it might take a lot of time to conceive and create it bit by bit. It is simply impossible to create it directly with just one strike of the sword, like Li Qingyun did. Moreover, this is definitely not something that a single Infinity Stone can do. At least multiple Infinity Stones must be connected in series to unleash such power. Now that the space has been opened up, fighting in it will definitely not have any impact on the universe itself, Li Qingyun said. He was actually a little itchy, wanting to fight with the Celestials to see how it goes. No, there is no need to fight anymore, I am definitely not your opponent, the exterminator answered very clearly. With his strength, facing such a powerful Li Qingyun, there is no suspense at all. If he really fights with Li Qingyun, I am afraid that he will be crushed to pieces without even a single move. Then you can come together, Li Qingyun turned his eyes to the other celestials, which clearly meant that you all come together. I will challenge you all. We are willing to admit defeat. This time, not only the exterminator admitted defeat, but all the other celestials members almost stood up at the same time and bowed slightly to Li Qingyun. Really not going to fight, Li Qingyun felt a little helpless. Perhaps he shouldn't have shown such a powerful move, which made the gods so frightened that they dared not fight him. With your strength, perhaps only the 5 great gods, the Life Tribunal and others in this universe can compete with you. I'm afraid no one among us can be your opponent anymore, Judge Allison replied. It shouldn't be that bad. Li Qingyun knew how terrible the true foundation of the gods was. Although no one in the gods in front of him was his opponent, if it was the strongest among them, he should be able to do it. The power that adult possessed was the sum of all of us, the sum of countless multiverses and countless gods, so his power was supreme and absolutely unmatched. But apart from that, among the gods, among the people we know, no one can be your opponent anymore, the exterminator said. Okay, Li Qingyun just nodded silently. According to the setting, what the exterminator said might be true. The most powerful of the celestials is OAA, but OAA never appears in front of anyone, and will never interfere with anything in the universe. No matter how powerful he is, Li Qingyun can't really see him. Below OAA are the Life Tribunal and the 5 great gods. The Life Tribunal was created by OAA. And the 5 great gods were born before the Big Bang, and they are the 5 cosmic entities that coexist with the universe. In addition, the rest are the celestials. As far as I know, there seem to be various powerful demons and some very special beings. What level are the powers of those people? Li Qingyun suddenly remembered that those who appeared in the Marvel universe were stronger than the celestials. What you are talking about may be the transcendent, Prosecutor Tefril answered, and then he also talked in detail about the power in the universe that is above their celestials. These gods are indeed the most powerful existences in the real universe, but there are indeed some very terrifying existences above the celestials. Demons are very special existence. They hide in the cracks of the real universe and exist in various cosmic dimensions that they have opened up or found by themselves, becoming the strongest existence in a dimensional space. Like Dormammu in the dark dimension, he is one of the demons. His power is beyond the gods. At least 1 or 2 gods are definitely not Dormammu's opponents. However, Dormammu's power is affected by the cross-dimensionality. It is difficult for him to appear directly in the real universe, and almost every demon in each dimension has a special existence that confronts them. Dormammu is restrained by the magician of Kamartaj and the eternal magic, so even after tens of millions of years and countless attempts, he has never really entered the real universe. In addition to the demons, there are the transcendents. They are a race beyond a dimension and have extraordinary power. Strictly speaking, they do not belong to any life in the real universe. They like to invade the multiverse and do various experiments with the multiverse. The cosmic cube is the result of their experiments. However, no matter how strong the transcendents are, they can never be the opponent of one above all. Well, this information is very useful. At least it shows that even if our super god civilization reaches an agreement with your celestials, it is not necessarily absolutely safe. Li Qingyun nodded with satisfaction. The information told to him by the celestials was roughly the same as the information he learned before crossing. The strongest in the universe, from OAA down, are the Transcendents, the Life Tribunal, the 5 great gods, the dimensional demons, the celestials, the cosmic observers. Of course, among these people, there are occasionally some special beings interspersed. For example, Thanos, who once mastered the heart of the universe, Ultron, who has 6 Infinity Stones, Doctor Strange, who masters the Dark Book, etc. Through some powerful weapons in the universe, or powerful power blessings, some other people have enough power to surpass the Celestials, or even the Life Tribunal. That all exists. Moreover, when Prosecutor Tefril introduced the Transcendents just now, he mentioned the Cosmic Cube. In Li Qingyun's memory, the Cosmic Cube is a very powerful weapon, but, like the heart of the universe, Li Qingyun has not encountered it so far, and does not know whether it really exists. Chapter 394. A small group formed inadvertently. The road ahead is long and arduous. In this Marvel world, all kinds of powerful forces are constantly emerging. It is not easy to completely ensure your own safety and become truly invincible, Li Qingyun sighed. Even though he already had the power to surpass the celestial gods, Li Qingyun felt that he was not that great at the moment. At least, when he faced the Life Tribunal before, he didn't know if he could win. There are also the 5 great gods and the transcendents, who are also the existences that Li Qingyun needs to pay close attention to in the future. Lord Chaos, we are the managers of order in the universe and cannot leave our respective areas for a long time. Can you allow us to retreat? Judge Alisam asked. He didn't want to stay here anymore because he was afraid that Li Qingyun would have to fight them. Well, go ahead. Li Qingyun knew what Alisam was thinking, so he naturally wouldn't make things too difficult for them. Anyway, the effect he wanted to achieve in this battle has been achieved. After knowing Li Qingyun's strength, they dare not fight him. There is not much meaning to keep the celestial group here. Soon, the people of the celestial group disappeared completely from Li Qingyun's sight. They have returned to their respective development areas to perform their own tasks. From now on, this area of the Milky Way will become a restricted area for all celestial groups, because they will definitely not come here again. They can't afford to offend the great god Li Qingyun. Even in the universe, a saying has gradually spread that Li Qingyun is actually a celestial clan and has more powerful power than the general celestial group. Li Qingyun is actually the guardian of the celestial group. This saying was only circulated in a small area in the universe at the beginning, but soon it spread throughout the universe, and all interstellar civilizations knew Li Qingyun's name. Everyone also knows that in the dazzling Milky Way, there is an extremely powerful god of chaos. He single-handedly fights against the celestial group, making the super god civilization under his jurisdiction a restricted area for the gods. What guardian or not, how can I, the dignified god of chaos and lord of the divine river, give myself such a low-level title? Li Qingyun only laughed at himself after learning about the situation. But at the same time, after all the celestials left, Li Qingyun actually gathered the combat power of the super god civilization at the first time, so that the entire super god civilization returned to its previous state. Have you heard what the celestials said about the powerful forces in the universe? Do you have anything to say? Li Qingyun looked at the people in front of him. These were the few people who stayed after the large group left, and they were the strongest ones. Death God Karl, Hezai, Morgana, Sun Wukong, as well as Hela and Thor. I know that there are 5 great gods in the universe. There are indeed records about them in our legends, Thor answered, which was also the main reason why he and Hela stayed. Both of them were from the Aesir. One was the person in charge of the large Magellanic system, and the other was the king of Asgard. The 2 siblings were supposed to be hostile to each other, but now because of the change of identity, the relationship between them has been eased. Especially when Hela found that there were so many angels and warriors of the Xiangbinglian as backing behind Angel Yen, Kilin and others, she began to contact Asgard more actively. Although there are not many strong people like angels and Xiangbinglian in Asgard, Asgard was once a divine court, and Thor's strength is also very strong. In addition to Loki, Heimdall and so on, the entire Asgard is the backing of Hela can also add a lot of chips to Hela, allowing her to maintain her current status in the super god civilization. In fact, the 4 major mistresses of the entire super god civilization have almost formed small groups unconsciously. This is not something they do subjectively, but it is formed objectively unconsciously. Like the angels, they are from the same clan as Angel Yen, and they are sisters who have fought together for thousands of years, so they are naturally in the same group. Kilin is a member of the heroic corps, and Sun Wukong and other heroes who came from the heroic corps naturally have a very good relationship with her. The original superheroes in the Marvel world didn't need to care about any groups in the past. After all, they were the most capable helpers under Li Qingyun. But now that the super soldiers from the super god universe have come, they seem to be very weak, and it is natural for them to huddle together for warmth without realizing it. Wanda is a superhero born and raised on Earth, and her twin brother Quicksilver is on good terms with other superheroes, so they naturally become a small group. Li Qingyun naturally knew all this a long time ago, but this phenomenon did not have any adverse effects on the super god civilization, so Li Qingyun naturally would not intervene in it. However, he did sympathize with Thanos and the 3 accusers. They were originally enemies of the super god civilization, and were later recruited. The superheroes in the super god civilization were not friendly to them, and Hela and Asgard were not interested in him, and the super soldiers were even less familiar with him. Fortunately, Thanos no longer has the so-called grand ambitions. He is now like a semi-retired old man, managing his own planet, and contacting his 2 god daughters from time to time to keep in touch. He is living a happy life. Well, these are just off topic. Now, they are gathered together, mainly discussing the problems of the powerful forces above the gods. The five great gods, the dimensional demons, the transcendents and the life tribunal, these four existences are all beyond the gods, but now they have only seen two of them. The dark demon Dormammu among the dimensional demons, and the life tribunal that appeared on the battlefield today. The life tribunal can naturally be ignored. As the messenger of the true God, its purpose of existence is only to judge whether the gods are fair or not, and it will not interfere with the development of civilization and the universe, and it will not have any impact on the super god civilization. The dimensional demons are different. They can be said to be the enemies of the real universe. Their super god civilization is already in the real universe, so they will naturally regard them as enemies. In addition, the rest are the five great gods and the transcendents. Now that Li and Thor mentioned the five great gods, it also gave them an opportunity to learn more about the five great gods. Chapter 395 Five Great Gods. The five great gods are Galactus, Death, Eternity, Infinity and Annihilation. Thor briefly told some of the things he had heard since he was a child. Among them, Galactus can be said to be the weakest one, but he is also the most dangerous one, because, although the other four gods are powerful, they never take the initiative to appear. Only Galactus is the synonym of destruction. He symbolizes the destruction and rebirth in the universe. In the legend, he will continue to devour the planets in the universe and replenish his energy through these planets, but his energy can never be filled, so he has been repeating the process of devouring planets. When Thor said this, his Zayan's son Wukong frowned. He used planets as food and was always devouring planets. How many planets must have been destroyed in his hands during this long journey? From this point of view, the actions of the Celestials seem much more reasonable. At least after destroying a planet, they will create a new one, but Galactus clearly cannot create one. Except for Galactus, Death is the source, creator and manipulator of all life souls in the universe. Eternity is the concrete manifestation of the sum of cosmic time. He represents the time and space of the entire universe and is an omnipotent existence. Infinity is the concrete manifestation of the sum of cosmic space. It is said that she is one with eternity, but the details are not explained in detail in the story. The last one is Annihilation. It is said that he is the smallest of the five gods, but he is the leader of the five gods of creation. He has the ability to control all non-existences without concrete forms in the Marvel multiverse, and can create, control and even eliminate them. At the same time, Annihilation can also create, destroy, manipulate and change all timelines in the entire multiverse at will, and can even destroy the entire universe itself. Annihilation, he is the most powerful existence. When Thor talked about Annihilation, even his tone seemed much more excited. Isn't this a bit contradictory, just like the so-called true god OA8? After listening to what Thor said, Morgana was a little speechless and expressed her opinion. Why do the functions of the gods in the Marvel universe seem so complicated? Even the energies of different gods overlap in many places. This, Thor didn't know how to answer for a moment. He just heard Odin say this before, and he had never seen these five gods before. He really didn't know what kind of power the five gods had. It was originally a group of cartoonists who were competing with each other. It's normal to have some contradictions. Li Qingyun thought so in his heart, but he didn't say it out loud. Now he has traveled through time and space, and he has traveled between two different dimensions until now. For these established conditions in the universe, he has become accustomed to making do with them. Because if you don't make do with them, there's nothing you can do. He can create his own story development later, but he can't directly change the original setting of the whole world. Regardless of their abilities, at least for now, we don't need to care about the other four gods. Only the devourer of planets will continue to devour and destroy planets. If he suddenly appears in the range of our super god civilization one day, we must have a way to deal with him, Li Qingyun said. He was reminding everyone to prepare ways to deal with the devourer of planets in advance. However, this reminder made Li and Thor feel a little numb. This is one of the five gods. If others know about it, they should think that it is best for the other party not to appear in front of them. But after Li Qingyun knew about it, he immediately began to consider whether there was any way to deal with him. This is already considering that if the devourer of planets really comes to the territory of their super god civilization, he will directly kill the devourer of planets. Perhaps, the devourer of planets can be directly transferred to the outside of the super god civilization through space phase replacement, but I don't know if he has the ability to instantly travel through space and return to his original position. If so, this trick will not work, Death Carl was the first to think of a response plan. Well, it can be used as a backup, Li Qingyun nodded. According to the information he knew, Galactus should not be able to cross space directly. In the Fantastic Four movie, he appeared as a huge star, and then flew in the universe at a very fast speed, devouring the planets along the way. During this period, his servants would come forward to find a suitable planet for him, and before Galactus arrived, he would let the servants first transform the planet so that it would be easier for Galactus to devour it after its arrival. The Skyblade judgment of the Skyblade series is very powerful, but its scale was originally designed to destroy small celestial targets. When facing planetary-scale enemies like the Celestials, the Skyblade judgment will be insufficient. It can be modified first, and the level and scale of the Skyblade judgment will be greatly enhanced. At that time, it will be easy to cut down targets like the Celestials. I also quickly thought of a combat plan that could deal with such super large targets. You can do this directly. With your understanding of the Skyblade series, the transformation must be the easiest. Li Qingyun looked at his eye and said, "Well, I'll arrange it later." His eye nodded and agreed. The artificial black hole of the black hole engine can also be used as a backup. Death God Carl once again proposed a feasible plan to deal with the devourer of planets. Reina's supernova explosion is also very useful for dealing with planetary enemies, Morgana said. She had controlled Reina and used Reina to launch a supernova, so she was familiar with this trick. "Aren't you super warriors too scary?" Thor was completely shocked when he heard the plans that Death God Carl and his friends said. "Is it so easy for them to destroy planetary targets? The strongest of them in Asgard only has a rainbow bridge that can destroy planets, and that is to destroy a planet under continuous output. In comparison, Death God Carl and his friends can explode directly at any time. Supernovas, black holes, etc. I'm afraid that a galaxy can be destroyed in an instant." A group of people turned around and looked at Thor, and just smiled casually. Chapter 396 Multiverse Original Movie Universe. The issues concerning the Celestials and the existence above them soon subsided. After all, they are civilization, and within a civilization, it is impossible to always focus on things like gods. They also need to pay attention to things within the civilization, such as the abnormal movements of Dormammu detected by Kamartaj. In addition, the Quantum Research Department has also begun to notice that something special has happened. The multiverse has completely entered the vision of the super god civilization, and all kinds of things between different dimensions and different multiverses will follow one after another. Lord Shen, we have detected that a multiverse is connecting with our universe. Peter Parker has felt a call from other worlds, but this call has been temporarily suppressed by our people. Dr. Pym came to the main hall of the castle and reported to Li Qingyun the latest situation related to the research in the quantum field. Peter Parker, Li Qingyun suddenly became interested. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, in the movie, it should be his turn now. After all, in the plot after Avengers 4, many of the original older generations of Marvel have already retired. Iron Man, Captain America, Black Panther, etc. So now it is Spider-Man's turn to make a grand appearance and take on the leading role. If Li Qingyun's guess is correct, the current situation should be that Peter Parker caused Doctor Strange to use a magic spell incorrectly in the plot of No Hero Returns, which led to him summoning Spider-Man from other multiverses. It's boring to be idle, why not go and take a look? Li Qingyun has been a little bored these days. Even in the battle with the Celestials, he didn't have any chance to show his ability. The Celestials didn't even fight him. Dr. Pym, go find Peter, Li Qingyun explained to Dr. Pym, and at the same time, he also sent a message to Wanda. Since we have to go to a world that follows the plot of the movie theater, and that world has now developed to the plot after Avengers 4, then it has a lot of connections with Wanda. Wanda has been with Li Qingyun for so long, and Li Qingyun has not done anything for him. This time, he might as well take her with him to rescue herself in another world. Although, this is just her factory settings, not the real her. Soon, Peter Parker was brought here, and Wanda also came. And this time, Wanda did not bring Zhao and Xian. Before coming, Wanda knew that she was going to go out alone with Li Qingyun this time, so she directly asked Yan and Killen to take care of the two children. Why not ask Hela? Just look at Xianxia, now he is a little bully. Although he is not bad by nature because of Li Qingyun's teaching and genetic genes, his personality is too strong. As the leader of an empire in the future, Xianxia's personality is okay, But Wanda does not have the ambition and desire of Hela. Compared with letting her children have much power in the future, she hopes that the two children can grow up happily and healthily. Therefore, Wanda asked the angels Yan and Qilin to help take care of Zhaoqing and Xiaoyan instead of asking Hela to help. This time, I decided to go to the multiverse with you, Wanda, but you have to remember that you have to rely on your own abilities to handle your affairs. The two of us will not interfere. Li Qingyun looked at Peter Parker. This little Spider-Man is the youngest of the superhero team on Earth, but his strength is not weak. Not only because he was originally Spider-Man, but also because he has studied and researched super god technology in the Super God Academy over the years, which makes the technological capabilities he has mastered very powerful. Although he has not become a super soldier and has not upgraded his super genes, the application of these technologies in actual combat has already been of great use to him. Therefore, even if Li Qingyun does not take action this time, it is not difficult for Peter Parker to solve the problem he faces with his current strength. Yes, I will solve this problem myself, Peter Parker nodded seriously. Then, I will release the constraints on you now, and when you feel the call of the magic, it will naturally take you to another multiverse. After Li Qingyun finished speaking, a ray of light suddenly flashed in his eyes, and the protection program on Peter Parker that was originally set by Dr. Pym and others to prevent energy abnormalities disappeared directly. Almost at the moment when the protection program disappeared, Peter Parker felt a strange energy appear and wrap him up. Then, a golden light flashed, and Peter Parker's body disappeared directly. He had been transferred to another multiverse. Let's go too, Li Qingyun said, and then stretched out his right hand and held Wanda's waist. A ball of white light lingered around the two of them, forming a protective shield. In an instant, the two were pulled into a strange space at the same time. This space was constantly rotating rapidly. Although Li Qingyun and Wanda did not make any movements in it, they were actually like flying. Time passed quickly, and in a blink of an eye, they had reached the end of this space, and then stepped out of the space. Here is a brand new world, very similar to the Marvel Cinematic Universe where Li Qingyun is, but in the process of development, it is a completely different world. Is this the multiverse? Wanda looked at the surrounding environment. It seemed that this place was no different from the world they were originally in. The distribution of buildings around it was clearly New York City. Yes, this is the multiverse, Li Qingyun nodded and said. I will use the Eye of Insight to read all the information now, and then share it with you. You will understand after reading it. After Li Qingyun finished speaking, he calmed down first. In just 1 or 2 seconds, it was enough for him to completely read all the information on the Earth, and then filter out all the content related to Wanda in this information, and then pass it to Wanda. Wanda accepted the information and saw everything that happened to the Avengers over the years. Especially when she saw that her twin brother died directly in the battle with Ultron when they first appeared in Avengers 2, her heart suddenly clenched. Then she saw the life of Wanda in this world, saw her lose her beloved, and then suffered in pain. Most importantly, seeing what she is doing now makes Wanda sad. Compared to herself, Wanda in this world is the real Scarlet Witch. Chapter 397 for Spider-Man in the same frame. She suffered too much? Wanda couldn't help but sigh, especially when she thought about how happy and complete her family was now. She felt that the Scarlet Witch in this world was so miserable. There are countless multiverses, but your husband, I am the only one, Li Qingyun said, while reaching out and gently stroking Wanda's hair. Yes, I am lucky to meet you, so I can live such a happy life now. Wanda was sad, but also a little more comforted and fortunate. Fortunately, she met Li Qingyun. Not long after she entered this society, she met Li Qingyun, and she had hardly suffered any suffering and torture. Even the whole world, here, they have experienced many catastrophic events, the whole earth is turbulent, and even almost faced destruction several times. Although there have been many huge disasters in her own world, each time they were perfectly resolved because of Li Qingyun's relationship. Now the earth has become the core of the entire super god civilization, and the Super God Academy has included all the geniuses on Earth and in the Super God civilization, creating an unprecedented powerful cosmic empire. In his original world, let alone disasters, even some small incidents that occurred in the daily life of the people can be dealt with quickly, and the sufferings of the world have been greatly reduced. Let's go, since we are here, let's help your sister who has no relatives or friends, Li Qingyun said, and then took Wanda to the illusion area controlled by the Scarlet Witch. However, Wanda was a little dissatisfied at this time. What is this sister who has no relatives or friends? In two similar parallel universes, there is another person who is exactly the same as you. If you say that you have no relatives or friends, then it is true. But in fact, these two people were originally one person. Even if they had no intersection, they would still have connections, so they are called sisters? At the same time, when Li Qingyun and Wanda went to find the Scarlet Witch of this world, Peter Parker had also found the person he wanted to find. 3 generations of Spider-Man in the same frame. When Li Qingyun first saw this picture, he was also a little moved. After all, this was one of the most famous IPs in the world before Li Qingyun traveled through time. The 3 generations of Spider-Man, each generation is so outstanding. The first generation is classic, the second generation is the most restored, and the third generation also has its merits. However, now the picture of the original 3 Spider-Mans in the same frame has suddenly become 4. P.S. In order to distinguish the 4 Spider-Mans, the 3 in the original movie are the first, second, and third generations, and the one in this book is directly called Spider-Man. Originally, the other 3 had already known each other and had introduced themselves, thinking that this was the most. As a result, another Spider-Man suddenly appeared, and this Spider-Man looked different from the other 3, and even his age and abilities were different. This Spider-Man looked exactly like the new generation Spider-Man. Where are you from? The 3 generations of Spider-Man looked at the Spider-Man in front of him, who looked exactly like him, but seemed to be 2 or 3 years older than him, with a blank face. I am a variant of your universe. If there hadn't been some accidents, you and I would have been one and the same. There would have been no difference at all. Spider-Man said. He had already understood it before he came here, and the words provided by the big clock explained everything perfectly. This world is a world without Li Qingyun, that is, this is a Marvel Cinematic Universe under the normal timeline, I marked the movie universe, but in the story, the big clock distinguishes it with the MCU universe. Well, I have seen 2 Spider-Men, and I feel more at home when I see you. When the 3rd generation Spider-Man spoke, he turned his head and looked at the 1st and 2nd generations next to him. The 2 Spider-Men were also full of curiosity when facing the latest Spider-Man. From the way I see you, you seem to know a lot of things, but you don't look like you have been in battle for a long time. The 2nd generation Spider-Man came in front of Spider-Man and looked at this Spider-Man who was exactly the same as the 3rd generation, but more mature and stable. I'm different from you. I didn't experience any setbacks while growing up. I haven't even participated in a few real battles, let alone fighting with others on my own. It's just that there is a very great existence in my world. He created a great super god civilization and established a super god academy. I can study in the super god academy, so I know more naturally, Spider-Man answered seriously, and he couldn't help but feel fortunate when he said this. In fact, in the universe where he is now, any superhero who comes here will feel fortunate, because in comparison, the gap between the 2 sides is too big. Super God Civilization, Super God Academy, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd generation Spider-Men were all confused. This is a bit difficult to explain, so why don't I just let you read a piece of data, Spider-Man said, and then he took out a device and placed it in front of the other 3 Spider-Men. After seeing the device, the 3 Spider-Men immediately gathered around. Then, a flash of light suddenly broke out and instantly shone on the 3 people. In the flash, the 3 Spider-Men retreated at the same time. The 1st generation reacted the fastest, and he flipped in the air and jumped 2 meters away, avoiding it far away. The 2nd generation reacted not slow, but his reaction was not that big, and he just turned his back to the equipment. The 3rd generation was a little worse, he only had time to lean back, and his right hand subconsciously blocked his eyes. Don't be nervous. This light is just to convey information to you, it won't hurt you, Spider-Man explained, and the other 3 had already realized this. Because, although they dodged, the flash still instantly shone into their eyes, and the information was still integrated into their minds. This information contains some simple introductions about the Super God Civilization and the Super God Academy, but Spider-Man prepared it for the other 3 people to understand him faster. Wow, the 3rd generation couldn't help but exclaimed. This Super God Academy is too amazing. The 2nd generation was also impressed. The Lord of the Super God Civilization and the Divine River can actually make the world so beautiful. No wonder you call him a great man. The 1st generation was also sighing, but he was not as shocked as the previous 2. He seemed calmer. This might be because he was older than the other 2. Chapter 398. This new Spider-Man is so strong. Although, because of the Lord of Shin, I am not as famous as you in your own world, but being able to live naturally and do what I want is also a different kind of happy life, Spider-Man sighed. I envy you so much, the second generation sighed. I envy you too, the first generation echoed. It would be great if we also had a Lord of Shin here, so that Mr. Stark wouldn't have to die. The third generation looked a little sad. In fact, the world he was in was more complicated than the worlds of the other two Spider-Men, and there were even more disasters. In the worlds of the first and second generations, they only had one superhero and faced only a few supervillains. But here, there are a lot of superheroes and countless supervillains. Disasters happened almost one after another. In these events, the Iron Man who led him to become an Avenger also died in the great battle to protect the world. The past is gone and cannot be recalled. Let's consider the present first, Spider-Man comforted. Well, we still have a lot of things to do now. The first generation walked to the side of the third generation, put a hand gently on his shoulder, and said, "Yes, I came here this time and can help you deal with many things. Moreover, the Lord of Shin is here too," Spider-Man said, and when he heard what he said, the other three all looked up and stared at him. "I didn't come here alone this time. The Lord of Shin also came here with me," Spider-Man answered affirmatively. "Although he said that I should handle the matter this time and he would not interfere, since he came here with me, it means that his attitude towards this matter is that he allows me to do it freely. In this case, I will teach you everything I know in half, so that you can benefit more." Spider-Man thought so, and he believed that Li Qingyun would definitely agree. Otherwise, before he crossed over, he specially collected a lot of information in the Super Seminary and brought all the materials he could have here. Why didn't Li Qingyun object? With the authority and ability of the Lord of Shin, he must have known it long ago. No objection means that everything is allowed. Haha, this little Spider-Man. At this time, Li Qingyun, who was observing the situation in the town from above Westview Town, also shook his head helplessly. Now the situation of the entire Earth is under Li Qingyun's control, and he naturally knows everything that happened on Spider-Man's side. "What's wrong?" Wanda turned around and asked. "No, little Peter has already started to act." Seeing his actions, I couldn't help but sigh, Li Qingyun replied. "Looking at you like this, he must have done something interesting, but it's a pity that I can't see it now," Wanda sighed with a little disappointment. "The super gene that matches you has been developed in the Super Seminary, but the chaos magic in your body is too special, so the matching has not been completed yet. After I go back this time, I will personally supervise it, and it should be matched soon," Li Qingyun explained. Matching super genes for Wanda and Hela is something Li Qingyun has already started to prepare. After all, these are his women, and they are going to gain eternal life with him. If they were not matched with super genes, even Hela, an Airser, would only live for 5,000 years. Theoretically, super warriors could live forever. Li Qingyun was the most powerful super warrior. Even the Celestials could not do anything to him. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was as eternal as the five gods. Yet, I know, Wanda knew what Li Qingyun had done for her. Her emotion just now was just a casual remark, not that she really felt sorry. Yet, Li Qingyun did not say anything more. In fact, he was mainly accompanying Wanda now, accompanying Wanda to watch the life of the Scarlet Witch in this world. Watching the Scarlet Witch trapped in the illusion of Westview Town, watching her imagine this beautiful life. Li Qingyun originally planned to destroy it directly and let the Scarlet Witch get rid of it. But at the critical moment, Wanda interrupted herself. Seeing the miserable first half of Scarlet Witch's life in this world, and then looking at her wonderful life now, Wanda couldn't bear to break her illusion so quickly and let her return to the abyss of pain all of a sudden. At least, let her enjoy it for 2 more days. This is what Wanda said when she just saw this scene, and it is also the reason why Li Qingyun has not taken action until now. This site is temporarily quiet, but Spider-Man began to act enthusiastically. Spider-Man combined a lot of super god technology he brought with the technology of the third generation of Spider-Man, and also upgraded the first and second generation of battlesuits, so that in addition to their own abilities, they also further strengthened their defense. You know, what Spider-Man brought over is a nano battlesuit, which is made by using nanotechnology combined with some dark iron elements. This defense is several times stronger than the nano battlesuits worn by the third generation of Spider-Man. The most important thing is that in these equipment, Dark matter computers are also implanted, which can help them capture the dynamics of the battlefield more clearly during the battle, and at the same time, they can better mobilize the surrounding forces. Everything was ready, and the 4 Spider-Men acted at the same time and began to hunt down all the villains related to Spider-Man scattered in the city. This process was surprisingly smooth. After all, there was one more Spider-Man in terms of number, but the number of Spider-Man villains did not increase. Moreover, this newly joined Spider-Man brought a significant improvement to their overall combat power. So, within just a few hours, all the villains were caught, and the 3 generations also successfully solved their problems according to the original plan, and began to teleport them back to their respective worlds. Of course, the betrayer appeared on time, but this time he did not succeed. Spider-Man had already been on guard against him, and the dark matter computer and the armor of the first, second, and third generations helped them to make the best response plan in the first time. As soon as the riot started, it was directly suppressed by the 4 of them. The plot of the movie No Return of Heroes did not continue with it, and did not let everyone forget the existence of the 3 generations of Spider-Man, and everything was solved. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 399, Timeline of the Splits. Wow, you are so amazing. After solving all the problems, all 3 generations of Spider-Man gathered around and looked at Spider-Man in shock. It's not that I am amazing, it's just that the technology and equipment I brought from the Super Seminary are amazing. Spider-Man scratched his hair awkwardly. This time, the incident was indeed solved very easily. There was no ripples, no surprises. Okay, I should send you back. Doctor Strange walked up and looked at the 4 Spider-Men in front of him. He didn't think it was strange. After all, for Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, like the first and second generations, was just a person from a parallel universe brought by his magic of time and space. As long as he was sent back, everything would be fine. Well, goodbye. The first and second generations said goodbye to the third generation at the same time. But the newest one smiled and didn't move. He knew that Li Qingyun was still here, and it was impossible to send him back with Doctor Strange's magic alone. And that was exactly the case. When Doctor Strange cast magic and made the first and second generations disappear, he found that his magic didn't work at all. What's going on? Why don't you react? Doctor Strange was stunned. This magic was supposed to send all the people who appeared back in time, and then cancel the magic. But now there is one person who can't be sent back. Doesn't this mean that his magic can't be cancelled? If this magic can't be cancelled, it will be completely out of control over time. By then, it won't be as simple as cancelling the magic. It's estimated that everyone will have to forget the existence of Spider-Man. I came here under the protection of the Lord of Shin. Your magic can't directly determine whether I stay or go, Spider-Man said. He had to let Doctor Strange know what his current situation was. What? What Lord of Shin? Doctor Strange was stunned. He only knew that all this was caused by a magic, and now it should be solved with this magic, but now even this magic has failed. Lord of Shin of the Super God Civilization, we come from a parallel universe opposite to this one, Spider-Man explained. I know you come from a parallel universe, but if I don't send you all back now, all the people who know Spider-Man in the parallel universe will rush in, and then this universe will be completely destroyed. Doctor Strange is anxious now. Faced with such a situation, he must make a quick decision. Spider-Man hesitated, and the third generation now turned his head with a worried look, looking at himself in this other world. I'll ask the Lord of Shin. Spider-Man could only stretch out 2 fingers and gently press his temple. Principal, Spider-Man hadn't finished speaking yet, and suddenly a red energy flew quickly from the distant horizon, and then a magic was directly performed in front of Doctor Strange. Chaos magic. The moment he saw this magic, Doctor Strange recognized the source of this energy. This red magic energy began to spread continuously, and the magic in Doctor Strange's hand that was halfway through but could not be performed was directly absorbed. Then, the magic began to change. All the influences that originally existed in the world disappeared in an instant. All the side effects related to this magic disappeared, but at the same time, the original wish of the 3 generations of Spider-Man remained. In other words, This time the incident returned to the state before the plot of the movie No Hero Returns began. Everyone who should know the 3 generations of Spider-Man knows him, and everyone who shouldn't know him doesn't know him. This state can be explained in a more understandable way, that is, the video that was made public and showed Peter Parker as Spider-Man was deleted, as if it had never appeared from the beginning. Wanda? When did she become so powerful? Doctor Strange turned his head and looked in the direction where the red energy just flew. He didn't know Li Qingyun's situation, so he subconsciously thought that this matter was done by Scarlet Witch, because in this world, Scarlet Witch is the only one who possesses chaos magic. This is not Scarlet Witch, this is done by the Lord of Shin, Spider-Man said quickly. 3rd generation, the Lord of Shin said that he has deleted all the influence of the video that was released. You are still the same as before. You can follow your original trajectory and take every step according to your ideas. Spider-Man looked at the 3rd generation and explained the situation to him. Really? Everything has returned to its original state. The 3rd generation was confused at this moment. Originally, he thought that either the whole world knew that he was Spider-Man, or the whole world didn't know that he was Spider-Man. He was even ready to make everyone forget him. But in the end, now he was told that all the problems were solved. Moreover, wasn't this what he wanted most when he asked Doctor Strange to cast magic in the first place? Before the video was released, all those who knew him and those who didn't know him were in that state. For the 3rd generation of Spider-Man, the best state was before the video was released. At the same time, above Westview Town. Will you create a new parallel universe by helping Peter Parker in this world like this? Wanda asked. Our arrival has already caused the timeline to deviate. Since everything has changed, why not make it more perfect? Li Qingyun did not have the slightest psychological burden. After all, the moment he, Wanda, and Peter Parker crossed over, the original timeline of this parallel universe had already been changed. This was inevitable. As for whether the fork of the timeline would split again, it didn't matter. In a world where the timeline was infinitely forked, the creation and destruction of the multiverse were all very common. Unless you were like Kang, the conqueror of the time administration, who has identified a timeline from the beginning and regarded it as the sacred timeline, and cut off all other forks when they first appeared. Otherwise, this kind of thing is inevitable. That's right, Wanda nodded. Regarding the issue of the multiverse, Li Qingyun spent a long time thinking about it. Later, he thought it through and understood it, so it became what it is now. For Li Qingyun, there is only one universe that he needs to pay attention to and care about, and that is the universe where his super god civilization is located. All other multiverses are just forks of the timeline. They are random and have nothing to do with him. Chapter 400, Same Person, Different Fate. Spider-Man, I, and Doctor Strange all arrived at Westview soon. Li Qingyun's move confused Doctor Strange, so he wanted to find out what was going on. As for Spider-Man and Spider-Man I, one of them was originally Li Qingyun's subordinate, and came here to make it convenient for him to go back with Li Qingyun. Spider-Man I wanted to see what kind of person this person who helped him solve the huge problem was. When they came here and saw the town wrapped in a huge light curtain, they were all shocked. What happened? Spider-Man I, and Doctor Strange were all shocked. Wanda, in your universe, she used chaos magic to control the entire town and created a whole new world in it, Li Qingyun said casually, and everyone's eyes fell on Li Qingyun at this time. Doctor Strange looked at Li Qingyun, and he could feel that Li Qingyun had a very strong power, the power of magic. Moreover, he quickly determined that Li Qingyun's power was the same as Wanda's next to him, which was the power of chaos magic. However, Li Qingyun's power was stronger, and the components contained in it were more complicated, so complicated that he could not see clearly everything except a part of the chaos magic. Are you the Lord of Shin? Doctor Strange looked at the man in front of him and asked carefully. Although he is now the strongest superhero in this world and on this earth, the rest, whether it is the Hulk, Spider-Man, Ant-Man, etc., are far inferior to him. Of course, the Scarlet Witch in Westview may be stronger than him, but at least for now, the Scarlet Witch must be on his side and is his helper. Therefore, Doctor Strange should be the strongest existence on Earth in this universe. But now facing Li Qingyun, he has a feeling of looking up to a mountain. The man in front of him has a powerful power that he can't see through at all. Yes, I am the Lord of Shin, Li Qingyun smiled and nodded. Doctor Strange, right? You have grown faster than the Doctor Strange in our universe, but your power is a bit mixed. It seems that when you use magic, you are also affected by various events, and your heart is not pure enough." Li Qingyun only took a glance and roughly saw the physical condition of the Doctor Strange in front of him. He's the most powerful superhero on Earth now, but being powerful also means that he has greater responsibilities. And he is different from other magicians in Kamartaj. Those magicians only focus on things in their magic field, so they don't care about other things in the outside world. But Doctor Strange is different. In addition to being a magician, he has also become a superhero. He will do many things that superheroes have to do. For example, this time when the third-generation Spider-Man encountered trouble, he went directly to him. "My will, belief, and will are unchanged," Doctor Strange replied. "Well, this is right," Li Qingyun nodded. Doctor Strange did not forget his original intention. Even after he came into contact with the Dark Book in the future, he kept his original intention. Li Qingyun would not refute him on this point. "What's the matter with you coming to our universe?" Doctor Strange asked. The question he was most concerned about was the purpose of Li Qingyun's coming here. He was afraid that Li Qingyun would do something that would be detrimental to this world. "It was the magic you cast that affected the little Spider-Man in our world, so I came here to take a look." "I don't have anything special to do," Li Qingyun answered casually. "Now, if you don't have anything to do, go and get busy. I have to continue to be with my wife here and see what our mental journey is like in another world," Li Qingyun said, and Doctor Strange turned his head to look at Wanda. "Are you his wife?" Doctor Strange asked in shock, but this time he was not asking Li Qingyun, but Wanda. "Yes," Wanda replied with a smile. In fact, the moment Wanda heard Li Qingyun say that she was his wife, she was already extremely happy. As one of the many women around Li Qingyun, although Li Qingyun usually treats her as his wife, when he came to a new place like this, he said this sentence so naturally when introducing it to outsiders, which also proved that Li Qingyun was sincere to her. True love for true love, although it is not the only one, but at least it is true love. What about Vision? Doctor Strange suddenly thought of Wanda in this world, the Scarlet Witch who is immersed in Westview at this moment. "The life I have experienced is different from Wanda in your world," Wanda answered decisively. "Although we look exactly the same, we are not the same people because of different life experiences. In my heart, the only person I love is Qingyun. I am now able to be with him, which is the greatest luck of my life. As for Wanda in this world, I can only say with regret that her luck is not as good as mine." Wanda said so, and Doctor Strange could naturally understand her words. Different worlds, different lives, and different experiences lead to different endings. Seeing the Wanda standing in front of him now, just looking at her youthful and beautiful appearance, there is a huge difference between her and the Wanda in this world. Only by living in a happy atmosphere can one maintain oneself so well, and only by living in happiness all the time can one always maintain an optimistic attitude. Look at the two Spider-Mans in the two worlds, even though they are still very young, the difference between them can be seen. It's really the same person with different fates. Doctor Strange sighed in his heart, and then he turned around and prepared to leave. However, the next moment he noticed that a team of fully armed soldiers appeared on the outskirts of Westview Town, and they seemed to be planning to break into the interior of Westview Town. He wanted to fly down directly to stop them, but Li Qingyun suddenly turned around and just pointed casually, and fixed him in place. Doctor Strange looked at Li Qingyun with a puzzled look. Let the matter of Westview develop naturally. No one can interfere before Wanda decides to intervene. Li Qingyun said so, and Doctor Strange could only turn his head and look at Wanda. However, at this moment, Wanda was looking at Westview below. She was still looking at herself in this world and the life she was experiencing. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.